the steal. Gillis in the open floor is going to have to regather to Smith. The lob to Edey.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Approaching 14 minutes to go here at Baylor. Bonner shot, yeah, on target.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Harris finds a cutting Grady Dick. Blocked. Wilson is there to clean it up.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
5 seconds. Shed driving, looking up. 1 second to go for the win. He got it. The Cougars win it. Number one remains number one.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Burnley tries again.
That's good. And Alabama feeling a lot better about their shooting now than at this point yesterday.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, a lot of discussion about how you will take off whatever day you do, Thursday or Friday this week, kind of like the opening day of Major League Baseball. If the NFL's opening day was on a weekday, then we would all look for reasons, I'm sure, to not work that day if games were played during the day. But the NCAA tournament officially starts tonight. There are 2 games tonight, 2 games tomorrow night, with teams that win advancing to play others who are waiting for them, and including 2 games tonight, Southeast Missouri State, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Pitt and Mississippi State, 2 16s, and then the matchup of Pitt, Mississippi State, 2 11 seeds, 2 more games tomorrow night. And so that is it. The tournament starts tonight. We have put the link up for you to join us on 365 Sports to do your own bracket. We'll kind of follow that along the way. But it's here, even though everybody finds a way to perhaps not work much or not at all when it comes to Thursday like it is the first round at the Masters.
Yeah, I think that there are certain, like, we need to make Super Bowl Monday a national holiday or move the game to Saturday, like, make that decision, because let's just accept the reality of lost productivity, and let's figure out something to do for the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, where, you know how you used to watch a movie before holidays at school? Well, you're probably not, because they had to go reel to reel for you.
The teacher brought out that big, huge, like, metal cart with a big TV on it. Yeah, that was a good day.
So when Craig and Garrett and I and Jack were in school, like before Christmas or something, they usually put a movie on because they knew they weren't going to get anything out of you. Nothing changes when you're older. So Thursday and Friday NCAA tournament, just playing activities at work that, you know, team building around the tournament. That way you can enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't know if the teachers thought they wouldn't get anything out of students. I think that they just didn't want to do anything. You know, I think that's as much of it as it was the students being distracted by Christmas break or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, it is that type of sports holiday, and, you know, we don't get those days off officially, but I would imagine, yeah, there's a lot of sick calls that have already come in or vacation days taken, and totally understand that. I do wish that the Super Bowl had like a day off for just the hangover of the big event, and it'd be cool if we had that as well for March Madness, but I get that the world doesn't revolve around sports. So it's a nice thought, and for some, they'll be able to, you know, like I said, take their days off or whatever, however they plan it out, but it is very unique those first couple of days when there's just games all day long and all over the map as far as the channel guide goes. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to having all of that chaos and excitement and hopefully a couple of surprises as well, and, you know, seeing how it all shakes out, you know, over the next few weeks.
All right, so we will have Terence Oglesby, the Field of 68.com. He's an analyst of college basketball. He'll join us today at 3:15. Kendall Kaut, Travis Roeder, who are analysts for Sikkim365.com on Baylor men's basketball, and also around the corner, Baylor football, spring drills. Craig's off the radar, John McLean, Paul's top 5, and a lot more to get to. So we do have Terence Oglesby here to get his feedback in about 10 minutes. Earlier in the afternoon, Baylor head coach Scott Drew had a media session Sunday evening after it was announced they would open up against UC Santa Barbara, had yet another one today, and the question is, what is the status of guard Langston Love and his eye injury?
So he's we'll see how he does in practice the next couple days, and then from there be able to decide if he can play or not. The big thing is just, is he able to perform to help the team? And after not being able to do things, where is he at physically and mentally and all that? So just like anyone who's recovering from an injury, you got to see when they're ready to step back on the court and be productive.
You know, wasn't it Texas what game was it that he played? He had a couple of games there where he played very well. He hasn't really had too many, but he had a couple in a row where you could see that it kind of, at least part of that light had flashed or clicked on.
Well, he's played pretty consistently well when he's had prolonged minutes all year, and I do think the Texas game he did play well. And then I guess it was the Oklahoma State game right after that where he got just poked in the eye, kind of a random injury, and you knew it wasn't good when they showed him on the bench 25 minutes later and he still had the towel over his head
eye,
because he couldn't look out, without hurting, So it'd be a huge thing for him if he got it.
I hope he gets healthy. Obviously, the guy's, got a bum eye, and that was an unfortunate situation. It's not an injury you see a lot of, which is kind of surprising, I guess, in basketball. It doesn't happen more often, but it's March Madness. Who don't want to be healthy to play in that? Hopefully he can go, and, it sounds 50-50 based on, Scott Drew's response there. I know that, others have already put out final determinations, but it sounds like it's very open-ended, and we'll see. If he's available, that'd obviously be great for them, and if he's not, then that's not trouble exactly, but it's not great news, and they're better with him, that's for sure.
The All-Americans released today by the Associated Press: Zach Edey, Purdue; Trace Jackson Davis of Indiana; Jalen Wilson, Kansas; Marcus Sasser, Houston; and Brandon Miller, Alabama. If you would have asked me to name 4 of the 5, and I did vote with USBWA, whatever the basketball directory is, I would have voted for 4 of those 5. I forgot who my 5th choice was. I did not see him on. I didn't look at the second team, but Edey, Jackson Davis, Wilson, Sasser, and Miller, and then Keyonte Johnson and also Marquise Noel. Both of them third team, the 3 players from the Big 12. You would have thought the Big 12 would have squeezed another player or 2 in. I know that on the board there was where's Adam Flagner? Maybe is it Marcus Carr? Who is it? But that was it from the Big 12 this year as far as All-Americans, even anybody honorable mention. That doesn't seem to be a lot.
No, that second team was really surprising to me that it didn't. But, you think about who's still there. Oscar Tshiebwe still playing college basketball. Yeah. Armando Bacot still playing college basketball. And even though, both Kentucky and UNC disappointed at different levels this year, Kentucky's in the tournament, although not as high a seed as their fans want them to be. And North Carolina didn't make it. Those guys are still studs, so you got to put them on there. And then you look at what Keyonte Johnson and Marcus Noel did this year for a team that was, had 2 dudes. You can't, You can't not keep them on there. So, it's tough. These things are really, really tough. Football's hard enough to do when you have 3 teams, but you do have, 11 or 12 spots in each thing to make sure that you can look at every school and get that on. When you're talking about 15 total spots through 3 teams, it makes it even harder going throughout college basketball.
Good for them. I don't really have too much thought on that as far as the team breakdown goes. Can't have everybody from the Big 12 on there. Obviously, like you said, there's a limited amount of spots, but for those guys that got it, well-deserved. And, there's definitely a lot of quality players across the league, but there's a lot of quality players across the country, as we've been seeing all year, but we're about to really see, as everybody who's kind of been locked in on their own thing suddenly gets their world expanded if they're not, huge college basketball fans that follow this super closely just all across the country. If you've been kind of embedded in the Big 12 and their style and their players and all that, then you're about to learn a lot about some other great teams and great players and Same goes for, any other fan base that's been kind of locked in on their own. So that's part of the fun of the tournament as well. And hopefully those All-Americans show out for those schools.
Steve Alford, pretty good player at Indiana, right? Ended up being a pretty good player. He is the 4th head coach in Division I history to make the NCAA tournament with 5 or more different teams, including Tubby Smith, Rick Pitino, and Lon Kruger. He is now, of course, he's been with Missouri State, Iowa, New Mexico, UCLA, and Nevada, which is a play-in team, I think, tomorrow night, made the tournament with his 5th different program. That's a pretty good list with Tubby Smith, Rick Pitino, and Lon Kruger.
Yeah. Steve Alford's had a lot of great success. I'm curious to see, when he hits the mountaintop, if he can. But he's a good coach, and he's going to continue to get, good opportunities. But that UCLA one, I'm always surprised when UCLA doesn't work out for coaches. Like when Ben Howland didn't work out at UCLA, because it is, a basketball factory, or it was, and they're good again. But like, you should win at UCLA, right?
Well, he was at Pitt, right?
Yeah.
And he did seem like it was a perfect fit. It did not work out quite the way people thought. And UCLA, as you mentioned, is now with Cronin. They're in a pretty good run, and even arguably a team that a lot of people thought could be a team that could win it. They have an injury, but that may hurt them. But so does Houston and even a couple of other teams as they hit the NCAA tournament. So Steve Alford was a pretty good guard back in his day in college. Played a little bit in the NBA. What did he play with the Mavericks? Alford? Was he with the Mavericks for a little bit? Don't remember off the top. I believe that's what I remember. Now, how about this? The federal lawmakers say they're taking their first steps towards considering legislation for college sports since the new Congress was installed. And a spokesperson saying that they plan on hosting a hearing later in the month on March 29th, which will include the new NCAA president, Charlie Baker.
Yeah, they like to hold hearings. It used to be when they held a hearing for something, it meant that they had planned to do something about it. Now, more than likely, they hold a hearing because it makes it look like they are doing something about it when all they're doing is letting people come and talk to them. And you can watch any hearing and know that whoever's on the committee is either invested in this issue or not by the caliber of their questions. And it's just a mess. So, I mean, I guess this is a first step into maybe doing it, but I think this is just so that they can say, well, we held a committee hearing about it. We're still considering the ramifications of that hearing, and then it'll just drag on and on and on because there are tons of these hearings. They love them, but they don't do anything because this allows them to sit there and pretend like they know everything about everything when most people don't. But they don't, and they can ask questions and they can puff their chest out and look like they did something, but then at the end, they're not going to do anything.
I'll disagree slightly. I don't know if they'll end up doing anything, but I don't think it's all for naught. I mean, I know that we kind of go in circles about the NCAA, and I obviously have made it be known that, I've kind of felt sort of the same way. But, I mean, Charlie Baker's going to be, what is it, like, I forget what show it is. It's like Good Morning America, or it's one of those high-profile major network news shows. It's like his first appearance as the head of the NCAA. I've been seeing advertisements for that. So he's attacking the PR side of this already, and you can kind of see their angle developing. I saw a conversation on this earlier. I didn't get to dive fully into it, but, I mean, there is a plan in place, and Charlie Baker's, going to attack and try to preserve amateurism as best as they possibly can. And I believe the way that it was explained was that they're going to go after the collectives, basically, as far as trying to get rules passed that would not make them null and void, but affect them to the point of again, I need to go back and read it, but to try and make it to where the collectives are, kind of the target as opposed to the schools themselves, if that makes sense. Obviously we all feel like there's a train moving down the tracks that eventually is going to result in full-time employment and benefits and everything like that. But I don't think that the NCAA is going to go down without a fight. I mean, they might lose every fight, but they're not just going to say, like, you know what, you're right, we're screwed, let's just not even try. I mean, they're going to try and do everything they can. They just hired Charlie Baker, so it's not like they're, on their last leg necessarily. He's just getting started. So I don't know what they can actually pass. I don't have great faith in their ability to sway the government, but he is a government guy. That's why they hired him, and he's already started to make some inroads, and they appear to have a plan of attack. So we'll see what he has to say in some of these interviews and kind of the angle that he's shooting for. But I don't think by any means that this is just another example of the NCAA going and getting their tail kicked and then, walking back to their corner. I think they're going to try and at least create some change and create some ability for them to enforce some rules, or at least curve some of what's going on right now. And how they're going to be able to go about doing that and all that, I don't know exactly, but it does appear they have a plan in place. So I'm not going to just roll my eyes at this juncture, but I'm also not super confident that they'll make anything meaningful happen in the near future either.
We're going to have Terence Oglesby from the Field of 68 here in just a moment with Craig and Paul. There are different versions of what may happen. Charlie Baker was hired to get something to happen, whether or not, again, he hits a roadblock or not, but walk in there and not just go in there with a bunch of, like, rose petals. Go in there with a plan and go in there with a reason. And we'll see what happens. Of course, Dr. Linda Livingstone of Baylor, a part of that governance of the NCAA that hired Charlie Baker to be the next president, and now the current president of the NCAA. Terence Oglesby, the Field of 68, is with us today as the NCAA tournament officially tips off tonight. Thursday, of course, gets all the attention, Thursday, Friday, and onward. Terence, thanks for your time. You have the 16 seeds and 2 11s playing in to get to the next level of this tournament. In your opinion, just based on the bracket, who among the double-digit seeds, in your opinion, might be one of those that could be, wow, we talk about them during the second weekend too?
You know what? I think when you bring up some of the first 4 in, Mississippi State has a guy in Tolu Smith who's one of the best post players in the country that nobody talks about. And they have athleticism across the board. Have they been able to hit shots consistently? No, but they do play hard defensively. They control the backboards, and they're athletic enough to compete with anybody. So I think that's one. If you look at another double-digit seed, guys, in my mind, Kent State is about as good a mid-major as I've seen all season long. They have enough size to throw multiple bodies at Trace Jackson Davis in their 4-13 game. They also have somebody in Sincere Carey, who's one of the absolute scoring dynamos across college basketball. I went and had an opportunity to call a game between Kent State and Akron, and Sincere Carey went for 35. He's that kind of guy. And being as big and strong and athletic as he is, he's going to be able to keep up with the guards of Indiana. I think that's one to watch. And then you can also throw a bone to Herman. Why? Jalen Slauson is an NBA prospect, a legitimate one that could make an NBA roster. Mike Bothwell is a big-time scorer and has been so at the mid-major level for the better part of 5 seasons. And they have a young man in J.P. Pegues, who's a sophomore, who was most outstanding player of the SoCon tournament. They have athleticism, they have scoring, and they have decision-making in the front court with Slauson against the defense in Virginia that you have to make decisions and make good passes to shooters. Herman, when they get hot, can knock down threes, and they have the decision-making with Jalen Slauson to be able to find those threes within their offense.
Terence, you're an ACC guy, and this is probably not what they would call as a conference one of the banner years that they're going to remember for a regular season. But given the way that Duke's playing, you just put Virginia on upset alert. Do you think that there's anybody from the ACC that can make a run?
I think Duke can make a Final Four. The way they've showed lately, John Shire has been absolutely tremendous all season long for this Duke team because they've relied on their defense from the jump, and that defense has allowed them to stay in games as the season has gone on and as they've gotten healthy throughout the course of the season. Derek Lively missed a good percentage at the beginning of the season for various injuries, and Dariq Whitehead has finally gotten into the flow of the game. He has been absolutely terrific. But defensively, this Duke team, with their length, with their capability to protect the rim, they're dangerous. And keep in mind, I haven't even mentioned Kyle Filipowski was an all-ACC player as a freshman and ACC Freshman of the Year. he's been great. But where I think it changed for Duke is whenever Tyrese Proctor was slid over to the 1 and Jeremy Roach was put over at the 2, all he did was flip-flop those guard spots. And what happens? Jeremy Roach now is in attack mode every time he catches the ball, and Tyrese Proctor is willing to give it up and receive the ball back on the second side of the offense. That's allowed for some ball movement, some player movement for the Blue Devils, and now they're even more difficult to guard on a team that already had substantial talent on that roster.
Terence, looking at the Big 12, I think, we all expected a pretty good showing. I think it turned into that. Was there anything immediately that jumped out to you seeding-wise from the Big 12?
You know what? I think the big thing, having 8 out of those 10 teams in the dance, or excuse me, 7 out of those 10 teams in the dance. I think, let's be honest, guys. I think you need to be better than 7 and 11 in your conference. I just don't think it's fair to the rest of the leagues in the country. You look at a team in West Virginia who's been fine. They have a good offense, all of that. But 7 and 11 in conference, you have to take care of business first before you get into the tournament. There's no wrong reason to say why they shouldn't have been an NIT team. When you look at other conferences across college basketball that have guys that are putting up record-breaking years in their league, not getting into the big dance doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I digress. That West Virginia team is still tough. I just don't feel like they deserved it. Play Maryland in the 8-9 game, I feel like Maryland's going to come out on top there. It's a Big 12 look. Kansas can make a run. Texas, I have losing in the second round. Baylor still has that talent. Kansas State can make an Elite 8/Sweet 16. Every team in that league certainly has a shot. I just feel like if you don't take care of business up to a certain point within conference play, I'm not sure you really deserve an at-large.
Baylor's offense can be dynamic, but, again, you live by the 3. You could also die by it. Tournaments sometimes are how good your guards are, but – Terence, their defense has been awful. They had the run of, 10 of 11 after 0-3 in the conference. What have you seen? Because to me, and not as an expert like you are, an analyst, it just seems like they give up so many buckets around the rim, and they're not rebounding the ball very well, and that's a deadly combination.
Now, you said the team at the beginning, and I turned around and coughed. What team are we talking about? I caught the rest of it. Baylor. Hey, look, guards are guards. Guards are going to be good. The forwards have not been as good, like you said, as they have in recent years. I think Jalen Bridges has been okay. He hasn't been at the level of Matthew Meyer. He hasn't been at the level of some of the guys previously. That all being said, Chama Chacha was back in the fold. That certainly helps things because if he's not playing major minutes, at least he's contributing on the defensive end and communicating at a high level. You look at Keyonte George. Can he carry a team on a given night? Sure. Adam Flagler, can he carry a team? Sure. LJ Cryer, same. They can all do it on a various night, but guys, they lost 2 in a row, both to Iowa State. I understand that. But they're still getting out toughed, especially on the defensive end. Out of 10 teams in the Big 12, they're 10th in defense. That's not good enough. So that's going to continue to be a difficult thing for Baylor moving forward.
You mentioned that you had Texas going out in the second round, right? Will that be to A&M?
Yes, I think it will be to A&M. Not that Texas hasn't been absolutely awesome underneath Rodney Terry, who's very much deserving to be in the National Coach of the Year candidacy. I get all that. That being said, Texas A&M, you want to talk about preaching toughness? That team has toughness. Tyrese Radford plays the 4 position at 6'2" sometimes. Guys, he is an absolute dog. Henry Coleman, a Duke transfer, fits Buzz Williams perfectly. And the best point guard in the country nobody's talking about, his name is Wade Taylor. And I think he's going to be able to get a hold of that Texas team with electric guards in their backcourt as well. Texas A&M, because of the style that they play, the toughness that they play with, I feel like they can make a run to the Sweet 16.
Is Alabama the clear-cut number 1 to you?
As of right now, I think the only team that really throws them off, I think if they get to the championship game, if both of them get to the championship game, would be Houston, because Houston is so tough and so physical. Some of those younger players for Alabama might have a hard time holding their positioning throughout the course of the game. Alabama with Brandon Miller, it helps whenever you're going to have the most talented player on the floor, no matter what team you play on a given night. He is that special. And in my mind, guys, he's not the first pick in the draft, but he's certainly in that 2, 3, 4 conversation. He has that level of talent and athleticism. But Alabama, as far as defense is concerned, this hasn't really been a reoccurring thing with them. ever since Nate Oates. They had 1 year where they were really good defensively. After that, it's been a little bit up and down. They have the number 3 ranked defense in college basketball. And a lot of it has to do with Charles Bediako behind the defense that allows some of those guys on the perimeter to get out in the passing lanes and make some mistakes, because he's going to be able to protect the rim at a high level and make up for some of those mistakes.
Terrence, with Baylor's struggles on defense, you mentioned A&M beating Texas, or at least you have them doing that in the second round. The fact that a team that was 7-11s in the tournament, it is still or was the best conference in America. But it doesn't sound like, in what we have thought and coaches have said, is we love to get away from playing each other and beating each other up. But you don't think that may correlate to the tournament?
I think there's obviously some excitement to play some different bodies. That certainly helps. And whenever you only have 10 teams in the league, I mean, you're going to see each other twice every time. And then on top of that, you got to look at conference tournament play too. I mean, it's tough. Look at Baylor, Iowa State twice in a row. You think anybody wants to play TJ Otzelberger twice? No, sir, they don't. I mean, there's a lot to be said there. If you look at each and every matchup, I think like it's still going to be times where you're still going to run into difficult matchups. You don't just get into the NCAA tournament and be mediocre. So even though they are playing different teams, it's still up in the air as to how you're going to be able to play. UC Santa Barbara, who's Baylor's first matchup, they have big guards and good players that play extremely physical. Colgate is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the nation. They have Texas in round one, and Montana State is one of those sneaky teams up in the Northwest that get guys that kind of fall on hard times, and then you're able to bring them into Montana State, and they can really hurt you. Guys, it's going to be tough no matter who they play. That all being said, I mean, it has to be a bit of a relief, at least to not have to go up to the size, especially when I talk about those top 4 teams in the league.
Terrence, Kansas has no bench, but when 4 of those 5 get hot, nobody can stop them. Is that what they have to rely on? Or are they going to be playing on emotion? They're still really good, but they've got tough matchups all the way through.
They certainly do. I wouldn't say they have the most difficult match, number 1 seed to the Final Four. I think that belongs to Purdue. But Kansas, really it comes down to DeJuan, their point guard. I mean, he's one of those guys that if he's able to score just a little bit, he changes the game and how teams have to defend this Kansas team, because all of a sudden now the court's spread out. Outside of that, you look at they have a lot of good scoring options and guys that can carry you on a given night. Jalen Wilson's as good as advertised. I think they'll be fine. Defensively, they're still Kansas defensively. It just worries me. Is Bill Self going to be there the whole time, and is he going to be at full strength? Because Norm has done a great job. Norm Roberts has done a great job stepping in and filling the role. However, it's still not the same as having your head coach there. I'm not going to say it's quite the substitute teacher situation for them, because Norm had him at the beginning of the year, but it's certainly different than having the head man in charge there.
I guess staying in the Sunflower State, Terrence, and touring around the Big 12 here, Jerome Tang, we obviously got to see quite a bit of him here in Waco the last few years. Has got his Wildcats in the tournament for the first time, or first time in his tenure here. How do you feel about Tang and K-State entering this tournament?
I think they have a point guard who's one of the best in the country, in Marquise Noel. I think they have an absolute bucket in Keyonte Johnson, who, by the way, I can't get over how good a story that is of him being able to come back, be part of a rotation. Guys, and be honest, he put away a massive insurance policy in order to keep playing. I think it's going to pay dividends. I think he's going to get an NBA contract. I think that is actually going to happen, and I hope it does for his sake. And then, guys, you can throw different bodies in there. That's the thing about Kansas State. It's not just those 2. Naquan Tomlin has been every bit as good as what people thought his potential could be. He still makes some boneheaded mistakes, sure, but they have another guy like Desi Sills, who's had monster games at the 2 position. Cam Carter, big body, he can create some things. There's a lot of bodies on that team. I think Jerome Tang, the fact that he only had 2 scholarship players coming back in the fold, after last season, he was able to put all these guys together and get them to completely buy into what they're doing on top of that. Makes it special.
All right, so Terrence, who are your Final Four teams?
I'm looking at Bama, Houston. I talked about both of those guys earlier.
Right.
I think Houston ends up winning it. And then I have Duke and UCLA. I know UCLA has Jalen Clark injured, but I still think that Tiger Campbell is one of the best pure point guards in college basketball, and Jaime Jaquez is a bucket at the end of the clock, at the end of halves, and at the end of the game that they need, and you're going to need in the NCAA tournament when games are close. You have to have somebody that can create a shot for themselves. I think he's that guy, and I think their freshmen are starting to find their form. Amari Bailey was the number 3 recruit in high school basketball last season. He's starting to find his comfort zone. Adeem Bona is Amari Stoudemire 2.0. If he's back from injury, which I think he is, I think they're going to be okay.
Terence, thanks for your time. Terence Oglesby, Field of 68 Hoops analyst with Jeff Goodman, John Fanta, Rob Douster. Rob will join us tomorrow on the show. We've got like 3 or 4 basketball analysts tomorrow, including Chuck Cooperstein, who, of course, does NBA basketball with the Mavericks. But we're loaded up. Kevin Flaherty, who covers the Big 12, covers KU, covers a lot of the Big 12 in basketball, will be a part of the list of analysts tomorrow, too.
But even though Chuck does the NBA, Chuck knows. I have confidence saying that Chuck knows a little bit of everything. In fact, I would want Chuck to be on that committee. Like, Chuck, if he was on the committee, I'd be like, all right, they're going to get something done.
Yeah, no, he's as well-rounded overall when it comes to knowledge of sports, from hockey to the NCAA, but his main forte, of course, is broadcasting in the NBA. He's done NCAA games with CBS and Westwood One.
Which is impressive considering his terrible alma mater.
Florida, the Gators. By the way, some of you are like, Terence is like being so negative. You know what I loved about Terence? He knows who we are. He came on here and gave us who he thinks and what he thinks, and I appreciate that. And, of course, yes, he wasn't like all roses and chocolate and vanilla ice cream when it came to Baylor or Texas or a couple of others, and I'm okay with that. That's his opinion. Everyone, of course, has one. All right, we have a break until our next guest won't be till 4:30. That's Kendall Kaut on Baylor specifically. We'll also hear yet again a couple more notes from Scott Drew. Yesterday, we had a conversation about, cable and streaming and all the things that have been such a big deal when it comes to college athletics, and with the Pac-12 working and hopefully having something that they will have moving forward. We mentioned Fox and that there was streaming. When Jim Williams contacted me overnight, he's like, Fox Go requires a cable subscription. So technically, yes, it's streaming source, but they also have Tubi TV for free movies, but they haven't really done live streaming on a service with the exception of the World Cup tape delay, and that was on Tubi TV.
Well, and Tubi, I mean, they got to put – I wouldn't be surprised to see more sports go on Tubi because, again, it's a free service and might get people on there. But, yeah, they don't. Yeah, technically it's not standalone like Hulu or Netflix or HBO Max, Disney Plus, those – Amazon Prime, Apple TV.
So you have to have a cable subscription to go to Fox Go, right?
Yes.
Okay, to activate Scott's Fox Go. I didn't know that. That's how obviously I've been on it because I haven't. ESPN
well, it's
Plus.
It's not a great and functional app, in my opinion. I think that they could do a lot better.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't keep track of that stuff so closely, so I just assumed that it was their own streaming service. I mean, I'd have note, even if it was one or the other, whatever it was, it's not up my alley really, so I hadn't checked it out beyond just looking at some college football games here and there, and I just assumed, wrongly obviously, that was its own standalone deal as well. So, yeah, you learn something new every day. I don't know how much that really matters when it comes to the Pac-12 and whatever they do, in the long run, but that's useful information, and that's obviously a big part of the conversation that keeps rolling along is the streaming aspect of it. So that's good to know. And Fox is set up really well for the future. They obviously were one of those entities that dove right in, so I'd be curious to see if they plan on expanding that streaming side of what they do. But, yeah, I mean, they got in on, Big Noon and the Big Ten and all that good stuff, and they're going to be positioned pretty nicely, I would think.
Some of the reaction on the chat room, the text line on the college basketball with analyst Terence Oglesby. Your thoughts about the tournament. Couple of college football notes. Today, theathletic.com put out a list with Chris Vanini of the top group of 5 coaches in college football. I'm going to see if Paul and Craig, don't look.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to see if Paul and Craig can help check those off, and you as well. watching us here on 365 Sports. I think there's 5 to 7 that jump out at you pretty quickly. Just going to have fun with that today to get a little college football in our veins. This is 365 Sports.
Just as teams are celebrating on the courts, your mountaintop experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo with total values up to $5,500 on second and third row options, or a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. And if we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams. It's the Jeep Celebration event at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, it's a little college football IV in our veins. Some schools, of course, a lot more this week, opening up their spring drills. We'll hear from Travis Roeder on Baylor on the verge of opening up their spring drills. Craig had an article on that coming up around the corner in his the good, the bad, and also the ugly. All right, 15 group of 5 coaches. It doesn't have to be in order. Don't look at my page. I remember in science class with Mr. Trainer at Randolph High School, I was once caught glancing at a test, and I was given an F. So that's what I'll do to both of you.
How did you do it? Just show, reenact how you did it.
Well, I had glasses, and I was just kind of, I don't think the professor, I wasn't a professor, I think he thought I was. I was glancing. It was not good. I was not going to do well in the test.
So it wasn't like one of these?
No, it wasn't obvious. I just kind of looked a little bit over, and I come into class the next day, and there's not even a 50, just F. I deserved it. That's fine. I couldn't argue it.
My friend Barrett sat behind me in government and economics, and he is easily a foot taller than me. And he sat behind me on purpose because when I would lean back, he could easily look over my shoulder. And then sometimes I would just feel like that, and I'd be like, what? And then he would sit back. I'm like, no, dude.
Yeah. No, there's obvious. All right. 15, the best 15, according to Chris Vanini from theathletic.com, college football coaches among what is considered at least that title of Group of 5. Go.
Group of 5 coaches.
From the Group of 5?
Yep.
Well, the best one is gone.
Who?
Luke Fickell.
Okay.
So he's out. Dana Holgorsen. I mean, he's not a Group of 5 anymore.
Nope.
Oh, I thought we were talking P5, so now I have to rethink about it.
Brady Hoke.
Don't look at me. Nope.
Okay.
Well, Willie Fritz.
Willie Fritz is on there. He's number 2. Some of the guesses that are coming in, Gus Malzahn, that's a Power 5 now. Brady Hoke was one mentioned. Andy Avalos, Boise State, no.
Huh. Well, that's a little bit surprising. Jamie Chadwell.
Yes, number 4.
Well, should be number 1, but okay.
I will beat you on this TV show.
over who's number 1?
Yeah.
In the Group of 5?
Yes.
Frank Solich?
Jeff Traylor. No. Jeff Traylor.
Oh, Jeff Traylor.
Number 1.
Jeff, I'm sorry.
By the way, yeah, okay, I'll remember. Tom Herman is on the list. That's from the chat room.
Yeah, but he's on the list, though?
Yeah.
But he hasn't been a a 5 coach for a while.
But he's considered in this list. Bonehead said UTSA coach. That would be Jeff Traylor.
Yeah.
Jim Mora. I do not see Jim Mora.
I think well, that's 1 year, though. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but Herman's no years.
Yeah.
Who's the head coach at Toledo? I don't know. Let me see.
Oh.
Tim Albin on there from Ohio.
No.
Jason Candle from Toledo.
I saw Jason Candle's name, Craig. You're right. I got Jason Candle is 12. Yep. Last year he was not ranked. Jeff Tedford's name.
Yep.
Yep.
I was just saying.
Okay, Jeff Tedford, Craig, Fresno State. Well, somebody also asked about Jamie Chadwell. We brought him up.
San Jose State coach left and went to Stanford, so he's gone.
Think of Military Academy.
Troy Calhoun.
And?
Munkin.
Jeff Munkin. That's 3 and 5. So those are a couple just to give you a little bit. So we have
Kurt
1,
Signetti.
2, 3. Who?
Kurt Signetti.
I don't think so. I don't think I saw that name.
James Madison.
No, he's not on here.
What about who's ODU?
They're not on here.
Okay.
All right. Let me see what the chat room has. Anybody? The Bonehead again, Air Force. The Tulsa coach, which was Philip Montgomery. They have a new coach. He hasn't coached yet. Someone mentioned we already did Tedford. All right, I'll give you guys a hint.
John Sumrall from Troy.
John Sumrall is one from Troy, yes. 12-2 debut with the Sun Belt Championship. They were really good, too.
How's he on there with James Madison's not? Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I understand why Troy's on there, but James Madison, I feel like you get a little love, but okay.
All right. He used to be the head coach at North Dakota State, I think was one that helped launch that program.
Bowl?
Craig Bowl. Who's
Okay,
now at Wyoming.
Okay, yeah.
He's 14. I always wondered if, that wouldn't have been a sexy hire. It never will be. But if Nebraska would have just gone to their roots with him, although he had some success as an assistant. It depends on who you ask. If they would have just gone to him, again, not a sexy pick, and maybe they would have gone through 3 or 4 other coaches. He just would have been fundamentally like Chris Kleiman, who came from
North Dakota State.
Yeah. All right, this guy used to be as high as being the head coach at West Virginia and Michigan.
Rich Rodriguez?
Yeah, he's on this list at Jacksonville State at number 8.
Yeah, okay. I forgot he was there. Man, people forget about things.
No, well, he wants you to as well, and that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, Tyson Helton at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never heard, and this is just because, Eastern Michigan's Chris Creighton.
Yeah, see, I would never thought of them at all.
9-win season last year, second winningest coach in school history that dates back to 1891. Took over what was arguably the worst program in the country. 5 bowl games, 4 winning seasons in the last 7 years. And then there's 2 more we're missing. Charles Huff from Marshall.
Yeah, that's obvious in hindsight, yeah.
And then I'm going to look at the chat room to see if there's anybody else. Steve Moser asked about the Ohio Bobcats coach, and he's not on there. And the final name is Mike Houston at East Carolina.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, but
good, but like, okay.
Yeah, 15 wins the last couple of years, 102-49 as a head coach with an FCS national championship. He was at one time at James Madison. So that's part of maybe the connection to what James Madison,
really
being listed, but in a way he is.
I'm really surprised Brady Hoke's not on there.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. There's a little difference with college football.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if I read it, they'd have like great explanations, but yeah, it's just kind of a crapshoot. It felt like. I mean, there's some obvious ones on there, and there's some others like, yeah, I could have sat here for an hour and probably wouldn't have necessarily thought of a couple of those names. But I mean, yeah, I guess for the most part, those all sound about right. And there's some that I didn't think of originally that you're like, oh yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, always good for the group of 5 to get love as well. It makes it a little confusing when it's not necessarily like who did well last year, because that's what I was trying to look at, was just
right
kind of where teams sat. But also all the movement going on. Like, would Kalani Sitake be? No, he's not on there anymore now. Would he be, or would he be?
Yeah, no, he powered. I would think
last year though knock him off the list, or is he not on there because of the Big 12? Or
I would think if he's a part of the Big 12 or a Power 5 now, then he wouldn't be a part of this list.
Malzahn's not on there, right?
Yeah,
you said that, yeah.
Yeah, and he would have been easily among the top. Sean Clark, Appalachian State, was a name that someone brought up, 26-13.
Yeah, certainly.
Obviously, with that a massive win in College Station at Kyle Field. And won the Sun Belt Championship division back in 21.
It's hard to remember who the hell's where, too.
Yeah,
like, I mean, especially when you start, diving down into, the reaches of conferences that, aren't necessarily squarely on the radar here in Texas. Like, you start getting out of the East Coast and all that, and the group of 5 football. I mean, no different. It's all great. I do, like many others, hate the separate terms. Although I think that's just to differentiate, not only the autonomy part of it, but that there is probably an unfair gap that's talked about as far as like the group of 5 being a dirty word or whatever, and can certainly understand where Mike Oresco was coming from the other day with that, the AAC commissioner. But yeah, I mean, between the coaching carousel and and whatever the qualifications are. It's an enlightening list, and good to get all those programs some love.
It's just a little college football in our blood, and a lot of you are participating with us in the chat room. We appreciate that. Scotty B's the one that thought, I'm surprised Sean Clark at Appalachian State wasn't on there, and he wasn't. And we brought that. No, he was not, so you brought that up. Now, based on Willie Fritz, Jeff Traylor, Troy Calhoun, who we saw Air Force Academy just bludgeon Baylor in the bowl game, Chadwell and Monken and Thetford. There's some, these guys, Herman, Rich Rodriguez, these guys are going to be up for jobs here pretty soon if they have or continue to have success. Although Willie Fritz seems like he's going to end up having one hell of a nice career and hopefully a lengthy career for the Green Wave, because what he's done there has been phenomenal.
Oh, it would not surprise me, because he's not a younger coach anymore, Willie Fritz. So, 5-7 more years at Tulane, get himself a nice place out there in the suburbs in New Orleans, and, eat etouffee 3 times a week.
I'd wait 400.
Yeah. So those kind of things I think that I would see from him. I think Jamie Chadwell will be at Liberty for a couple years, and then somebody will finally give him a P5 job.
Whatever is a P5 in 5 years.
Yeah, not to get on my soapbox about Liberty, and I'm not going to, but I do think that with all the jobs open, that to me it's just kind of unfortunate that Liberty was the best one he could get after what he's done at Coastal Carolina.
Pretty good football school, though. I know you can say whatever you want politically about Liberty. Their sports and athletics departments are pretty good.
Yeah, it's an upgrade from Coastal Carolina for sure when you just take it on that. But I do think that Virginia Tech's had an opportunity to hire him the last couple of years. South Carolina didn't. Okay, they went with Shane Beamer. I think that was a really good hire for them. Georgia Tech made sense to me for him. Like there's probably 6 ACC jobs that made great sense for him, just being in that region and being able to just kind of step out up into, an ACC job and have those resources. But, what do I know?
Herman, by the way, and Big Jack 512 mentioned this as far as a P5 or G5 is his first year, hasn't coached yet where he is, but he was at Houston, which was a G5. I'm not sure if that resume came into play whatsoever.
We knew he was a good G5 coach. He was not a G5 coach after that, and the program he is at is no longer a G5 job starting this year. So, I guess we'll see. And look, I thought the Herman hire was good. I think somebody bringing him back is a great idea. But I don't know if he's going to be successful again to the level he was at Houston until he gets out of his own way.
He took a step away. I think it remains to be seen, but I think the guy's tried to go work on himself. If you look at him, he's unrecognizable. It looks like he's lost a bunch of weight. Looks like he's cleaned up, maybe, just taking care of some things in his personal life that needed to be taken care of. I'm not insinuating anything. He looks like he's healthier and happier, and I assume more clear-minded. As much as I can from just seeing interviews and pictures and whatnot. The guy was not a bad football coach. I don't know. It's weird. I feel like sometimes there's this perception of Tom Herman, he got ran out of Austin, or he wasn't very successful there. And really his personality had as much to do with him getting the boot as anything on the field wise. That was a pretty good team by the end. And he set up Sark, I think, pretty well to be in a position that they are. Now, granted, Sark's done a lot, changed a lot, and brought in a lot of guys of his own. But, I think, Herman did a fine job there, and he did a great job with Houston, obviously. So I think he's going to, do great out in Florida, and I don't think that we'll be waiting too long. Probably a couple of years max before he's starting to get right back into the scuttlebutt of the Power 5 conversations, whatever jobs those might be. So yeah, I'm interested to see his comeback and how the time away and the time in the NFL and doing all that helped him. But I assume, rightfully or wrongfully, that he's going to be a better version of himself now that he's back in college football from the last time that we saw him.
Chat room, Oakley was asking about the link for the NCAA tournament that we're using, playactionpools.com. It's pinned at the very top of the chat room, Oakley. So you have a chance. It's also in Sikkim365.com in the premium section right now, one of the top threads that is there. All right, it's 3:54, 4 o'clock hour. Kendall Kaut on the Baylor men's basketball team, but also his thoughts. And I told him about, let's look at the Big 12 teams and 7 of them. He's covered them. He's seen them. He'll give us thoughts about all of them, from West Virginia, the lowest ranked seed, to Kansas as a number 1 seed. We'll check in on a couple of other stories, of course, in sports, a couple of NFL notes to get to, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and right now they have a Texas-sized selection, over 150 vehicles on the lot and ready to drive home today. They've got luxury SUVs in the 2023 Buick Envisions. Qualified buyers can get special lease payments with $5,000 down cash or trade, $269 per month. You can save thousands on a purchase. I'll let the dealership get more into the details and into the weeds of their offers, because they can explain it a lot better than I can, just throwing numbers at your head. But I can vouch for their customer service, and I can tell you as well that the next time I'm in the market for a vehicle, whether it be new or pre-owned, Richard Carr will be the place that I head myself. They hooked up my car on more than one occasion, and they are definitely the people that I've counted on. So if you're looking at various offers as far as the new vehicles go, they got the 2023 GMC Sierra SLT 1500s, the 2023 Buick Envisions, as I mentioned as well. Those are just a couple of the new rides they have special offers on right now, and again, can get more information over at the dealership. If you're looking to go a pre-owned route, how about the quality of the many trucks and cars in stock, all under $20,000, or many of them under $20,000. They've got a lot of different vehicles that are affordable, thoroughly inspected, and ready to finance for almost any credit rating, and also ready to drive today. And perhaps you're not looking to buy a car, truck, or SUV. You just want to drive yours a little while longer. They have an award-winning service department that is standing by to keep you on the road. You go to the website, richardcarr.com. That's KARR.com, to see their service specials and set an appointment for quick and reliable repairs. So whatever you're looking for, new, pre-owned, work on your current vehicle, they can get all of that squared away for you over at Richard Carr. In business for 23 years in Central Texas, they've developed a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. So go check them out. Run by proud Central Texans. Get more information on the website, richardcarr.com today, or call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial.
This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Hope you've had a pretty good day on this Tuesday. The NCAA tournament, again, as we mentioned, starts tonight. 2 games tonight with teams that win moving into the next round. Iowa State gets to wait for somebody, and then also 2 more tomorrow night. And as Terence Oglesby mentioned, Mississippi State 11 seed against who was it? I just went blank. Damn it! Mississippi State an 11 seed, and he feels like they have a chance. I think they beat A&M. About 2 weeks ago, during the time A&M's been red hot. That was one of the few teams until Sunday that has beaten Texas A&M. Of course, Alabama beat them up pretty good on Sunday. So Scott Drew and Baylor in the NCAA tournament Friday, 1:30. Is that right?
Yeah.
1:30 the tip against UC Santa Barbara. 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern against UC Santa Barbara. All right, Garrett, we've got a couple of bites from Scott Drew. Which one do you want to run first?
This is going to be on the point of emphasis for the team heading into the tournament.
All right, here we go.
Well, obviously, we got out rebounded 44-17, so that's been a big point of emphasis. And most of all, that's something that hadn't happened all year long. So you'd worry if that's something that you had to happen in multiple games. But at the same time, the great thing is we did a lot of other good things in the game. Our first shot defense was 38%. Our offense operated at a real high clip. And for the first 2 times we played Iowa State, it didn't. We had great energy and team chemistry on the bench and everything. So really we're just making sure that we're doing a better job blocking out, being more physical and more aggressive 250-50 balls. And that's something we can work on all week to make sure we're ready for that area.
All right, so if you look at when you get out-rebounded, and they were impaled, basically, at 44-17, and then again defensively struggled, that seems to be – it's not as if they're not playing hard because, I mean, they just wouldn't put up with that. It's not as if they don't want to play well, but it is a commitment. It is a focus. It is a desire, right, those 2 things?
Their problem – you can pick a stat from all the games they've lost, and they might overlap sometimes. But 44-17, getting out rebounded, kind of goes with the, this team is completely dependent on going on scoring runs in flurries and getting teams to where they just know there's no way we can make this many shots, as opposed to their defense is how they've won the last few years. So because of that, when they get in a scoring funk, it just bleeds over into everything else. The thing about 2020, 2021, and 2022, 2019, like the 4 years preceding this, is that they had guys that knew that, you know what? So what if the shot's not falling? If my shots aren't falling, I'm going to make damn sure yours aren't either. So eventually, the seesaw will go, the way that I want it to go, especially if I'm taking you out of your game. They don't have that mentality on this team. So then it spirals out of, oh, man. And so you saw that game against Iowa State and Kansas City, something you don't see from Scott Drew teams very often, but it's happened a couple times this year where they were just beat early in the second half, and it was just done. That was it. They're just done. And they can't let that happen to them in a tournament. They just can't.
I still, it's hard to imagine that rebound stat. When he said that, I said, no, actually, that did happen because we put up a couple of graphics to show for it. Craig, rebounding, defense, 50-50 balls, isn't that kind of that doesn't mean they're not playing hard, doesn't mean they're not trying, doesn't mean they've quit. I don't know if you can just turn that light switch on.
Yeah, I'm not real confident in that either. I mean, I don't know. It's feels like Groundhog Day, just talking about the same issues that they've had all year long, and all of a sudden here we are in March, and everybody's acting, people are acting like all of a sudden they're just going to flip some switch, and that's going to all magically be better because now they want to play harder or they're more focused or whatever. I mean, they are who they are. Like, I mean, it's not that complicated. There's a boatload of evidence about who they are. There's statistics from 20 plus, but 30-something games that are out there now on them. We've seen them play teams 3 times. Like in Iowa State's case, we've seen them play others, very good teams, top 25 teams twice. I mean, we know who they are. They're not a team that's great defensively. They're not a team that's great on the boards. They're not a team that is really all that effective if they can't score in bunches. So, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. If they, I think they can get away with not shooting well or, being the best field goal percentage-wise against Santa Barbara and probably get away with it. But, beyond that, I think you're going to run into some trouble if they're not shooting the ball well because I don't know that there's just a magic pill that you take where all of a sudden you're going to be tough down low or all of a sudden you're going to be, out fighting, bigger, stronger teams for boards. It's just – yeah, it's a problem as he addressed, and it's one that, hopefully it is. Maybe it is just flipping a switch, but I don't know. I felt like maybe you get into the Big 12 tournament and that switch would flip, but it didn't. And now here you are, and that's why I've kept saying that, I just hope that this team realizes what's ahead right now because the next game they lose, they're done. The next game they lose, Keyonte George is going to the NBA. The next game they lose, Adam Flagler's going to the NBA, so on and so forth. That team's going to look drastically different.
And you have teams coming perhaps to try to poach maybe a player or two. I remember, I'm not sure what game it was, there was actually on a broadcast talking about that there might be teams that want to come after L.J. Cryer. And there was a little bit of that smoke last year during the offseason.
Yeah, and it's NIL deals. I mean, that's the big reason that Matthew Meyer left, among other things. But, look, he's out there selling T-shirts and
they're fine
Illinois now, so
they're fine without him.
Yeah, and I don't think it. I do think they, surprisingly enough, and I never thought I would say this, they do miss his defense. But as far as I don't think this team would be that much different if he was on it.
I don't think he's like the missing piece of them unlocking a Big 12 title or anything necessarily. No, I mean he left and he went and made money, and good for him. I don't think anybody's faulting him for that. He seems to have really enjoyed himself at Illinois. He got himself a T-shirt, maybe some others that we haven't seen yet, and that's all great. But, yeah, I don't think he's like the piece that they're missing as far as this team goes by any means. But, I mean, yeah, they're going to have to get tough in a hurry. I mean, I just feel like be downtrodden here. I just feel like we've asked the same question like 3 or 4 times in the last, 6 weeks. And all of a sudden, like, because it's March Madness, that this is all of a sudden going to click for them. I have a hard time believing that. But you're right, though, at the same time.
You know what it did for last year? North Carolina, it clicked.
Yeah, it clicks for them.
For some reason, all of a sudden, they just became unbelievable. So,
but, I mean, it is March, and so maybe you do turn a corner. But, I also want to make very clear, sound probably super down on this team. I'm just, hearing the same things that we've heard all year long. And so that's kind of in my mind. But they're a very good and talented team. And if their shots are falling, then they're going to be a team that other people's radio broadcasts are going to go like, well, what if Baylor's shooting lights? Well, then you're screwed probably because they're very electric offensively. They're a good team. They can make a deep run. I don't want to make it sound like this is some bad team that limped their way into the tournament. It's just that their glaring flaws have remained unchanged from when they were their glaring flaws at the beginning of the year.
They did limp into the tournament, though. You're right. They have limped into this tournament.
They have.
Yeah.
I mean, so, they could possibly turn it on, but, there's just as good of a chance that they don't. And I just hope for their sake, like I've said a few times now, that they realize what's on the line now, that this isn't you get a redo. You get the Big 12 tournament after this, or you get your second meeting with Kansas after this. Or no, this is it. And I would expect that, they realize that, and I hope that they do, because if not, then might be a quick and unexpected exit that leaves you reeling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Biscuits and gravy. And I'll ask this question to Biscuits. Why so negative? Do they have to be national champs to be good? This is a good team, not a great team. I think that's basically what we just said.
Just said that.
But if you don't see hickeys all over their bodies, then you're not watching the same team we are. They have a chance. Are they the team that won 10 of 11, or are the team that they got their ass kicked by Marquette? Are they the team that just got bludgeoned by Iowa State 3 times? Is it the team that played like crap in the second half at Kansas and Kansas State, or the team that played in the first half? They show signs, but to sit there and say we're negative, we're being honest. It's an opinion, just like Terence Oglesby.
Well, and look,
I don't understand. Wait a minute. Just because we have something that doesn't sound like a bunch of sugar and cream doesn't mean we're negative. It's our opinion. They have not proven they have a chance to be good in this tournament, at least lately, and that's what we've seen most recently. I have them going to the Sweet 16. I don't have them getting knocked out in the first weekend. I have them in the Sweet 16, and then there's a team called Arizona.
Yeah, I don't it's just factual. Negative, not – yeah, you can put it that way, but sometimes you can be overly positive too. Look, I think they got a pretty good draw in the first round of who they have to play. They have to play, they're a 3 seed. They got to play a 14 that hasn't played a quad 1 team all year. And while, you can hear people say that there's good matchups on that side, I think that when you see your first quad 1 team and it's the first round of the NCAA tournament, that's not good news for UC Santa Barbara. I think that they match up well with Creighton and with NC State. That's fine. But when you get deeper in, you've got to rebound, you got to play defense, you got to do these things. And they could get hot, absolutely. But they have not been that team consistently since that 10 of 11 run. So it's just they've got to wake up now or it's over. And, yes, we're not – you can't expect anybody to win the national championship every year. But the thing that starts this week is for the national championship. Mm-hmm. So that's 68 teams right now from – not likely at all to very likely, are all trying to do that. Howard has to go beat Kansas to try to do it. But in their mind, in their deepest heart of hearts, they know that there's a path to them to do it, however minuscule it is. So that's what this is about.
So there we are. Scott Drew also, speaking of Baylor, with the South region. We know the number 1 overall seed is in it, Alabama. We know a team that probably could have been a number 1 seed who won the Pac-12, and Arizona's in it, although they lost to Arizona State just a week or so ago. Scott Drew on the South region where Baylor is located.
Well, I think every region's tough, and probably everybody thinks their region's the toughest. And I know that right now, the first thing was I'm really excited that we're in the NCAA tournament. We had the year we did, and I'm really blessed and pleased that we weren't playing Grand Canyon, and at the same time we were able to be in the same site as them. So besides that part of it, our first game, and then our immediate 2-team tournament, that's all we will focus on. That's all we will look at. And it's, as we know, you lose one, you go home. So the scope of things aren't really important. Really, it's Friday at 11:30. That game's the only one that matters.
All right, that's Scott Drew from today. We had a couple of comments from one of them earlier today. One of those two have been, of course, from what he said after the tournament was set on Sunday evening. From Donnell, who will Baylor play in the group of 32? It should be Arizona if they take care of business, if Arizona and Baylor both take care of business. BU, really, guys, it's all about matchups in the tournament. And the NCAA does a pretty good job of some very intriguing matchups, not just the fact that A&M and Texas might meet in the second round, but matchups of what teams do. Pretty damn good at being able to do that. Baylor, if they win, most likely will play Creighton in the second round of the NCAA tournament. So there we are with that tournament discussion. A lot have mentioned they have Houston. There's an argument. There's back and forth on Houston. Let's see here. They play physical against Texas every single time. Paxton responding to a couple of comments that are being made. Biscuits and gravy. Camille Johnson, I'll have to remember that. I've been looking at houses. Oh, she was talking about a commercial with Camille Johnson. Biscuits, sorry about that. All right, Jacob, do you guys think the Big 12 at some point, once everything shakes out, will have more than one, possibly multiple, non-football schools involved? We've, of course, heard the discussion. Even Yormark's brought it up. Mac Rhodes, we've asked him. The Gonzaga discussion. Do you feel like there would be anything other than that involving the Big 12 moving forward that could be involving a UConn or a Villanova? I think Villanova plays football again. I know UConn, excuse me. Villanova Xavier, any of those particular teams that are Creighton, Xavier, a couple of those schools. I don't see that. I think it's either Gonzaga or nobody, and maybe not even Gonzaga.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that Gonzaga is the only one that really makes a ton of sense as far as being a basketball school and not having football. But as Mac Rhodes told us the other day, yeah, I mean, they're not really looking into basketball-only additions that also play football. So Villanova's not going to be a part of this unless it would also be in football, and I don't know how much sense that makes, and I don't know how they'd possibly bring any value football-wise to the conference. So I don't think that that's all that logical. And I don't know off the top of my head how to rattle off all the others that are basketball exclusive, but I don't know that anybody has the brand of a Gonzaga that would be all that worthwhile to Brett Yormark and company. And perhaps I'm just missing somebody like Xavier or something like that. But I also don't know all the details for these conferences and, how they're constructed as far as their, contracts and all of that. I don't know how that would even work, bringing in a basketball primary school. So, yeah, I think Gonzaga makes a ton of sense for what he's trying to accomplish. I still would love to hear more details before just wildly accepting it because it's just new and it's an addition. I feel like that happens a lot in realignment stuff is, oh, well, we're adding this team, so now they're awesome automatically. There's I think you got to be careful just adding. So I think that the fact that you've only heard Gonzaga really brought up is a sign of, where their focus is, but also the fact that there's probably not too many other teams that are fitting the bill that Gonzaga would as far as a non-football school would go. So, yeah, right now I say I don't see much, but if you have any suggestions or other ideas, then by all means pass them along because who knows? Brett Yormark's, like he said, he's anything that'll make money or anything that could, better the conference, expand the footprint. He's into that idea. But especially when you're focused on the West, it appears, a lot of those basketball-only schools you mentioned are all on the Eastern Coast. And I don't know how much of a desire there is to go, like, do they want to go get Georgetown? You know what I mean? Like, is that really in their cards? I don't know. They've never really indicated that at all. They've always talked West, 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 and that's why Gonzaga just seems to fit the bill and check every box.
Steve Moser, I have Houston beating Arizona in the championship game with Purdue and Kansas losing in the Final Four. Big Jack 512, I have Boise State upsetting Northwestern. Paxton, I have Boise State too. I think I have Boise State. I don't remember in my bracket. Biscuits, I don't have green glasses. I'm happy as can be with what this team has done. Craig definitely said the season is a failure. I don't agree. I have an opinion as well.
Okay, when did I say that? When did I say the season was a failure?
I don't remember you using that word.
If you're talking about the podcast earlier, then say that, and then I will then tell you that I said in that regard that to just end in the round of 32, I do feel like that would be a failure of a season with this team constructed the way that it is, with Cryer and Flagler and George and everybody that came back and what they added to end in the round of 32. I don't know if failures, like in the way you're obviously thinking of it, the route I would go. But, yeah, that would be a massive disappointment. That would be, to me, falling short of your expected goals with this roster the way that it is.
Is biscuits and gravy Kim Mulkey?
Remember when they lost?
I mean, that was her deal.
I'm sorry.
They lost to Louisville, right? Was it Louisville when they lost? And Bryce Cherry, the title in the newspaper was it?
No, they lost to A&M.
A&M in the regional final after they'd beaten them 3 times. Biscuits and gravy. You don't want to be pro Baylor, but have no issue going all in on pointing out their glaring deficiencies. Biscuits and gravy, let's clear the air on something.
Mind, man.
Let me clear the air. You've been incredibly loyal to us from day one. I've spoken with you before, but I get this impression that you have this really itch that we aren't 24/7 Baylor. You've actually brought that up before. We are growing, and we've just played Scott Drew soundbites, not Bill Self. We're having writers on today that cover Baylor specifically and also the rest of the country. That's who we've become, and yet we're still core Baylor for the most part. I don't get that angle, and I've heard it from you, and you've said it before, and that's too bad because, God bless, you've been with us since day one. Saying something about what we said about Baylor's men's basketball is truth serum. We could be wrong, and if we are, that's great. It's just who we see now. We could come on here and say, damn it, they ought to play in the national championship game. I would be lying to you. So pick what you want one way or the other. My issue as well may be right, but they are still in the top 12 of the nation according to seeding. I'm not a second place is first loser person. Oh, no, they have a great seed. They were a high number 1 ranked 2 seed, right? And then now they ended up a 3 seed. So even the NCAA committee sees what we see, that they almost were looking at a number 1 seed, and they ended up being a 3 seed. That's basically right there also sums up our conversation, too. When we come back, we'll discuss Baylor and the men's basketball team that just mentioned with Kendall Kaut.
Wow.
Sikkim365.com. Don Humidor Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco with Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. Went into the other day, and Ashley had a box of Oliva, the Churchill Length Oliva cigars for me. Fantastic smoke. It was I was able to smoke a couple of them when I played golf on Saturday at Squaw Valley in Glen Rose, and then also had a couple of cigars when I was playing around at golf on Sunday. It's just it relaxes me a little bit, just something I do. That's when I smoke my cigars. And if you do, or you're trying to buy something for somebody else who does, Don Humidor and Coffee Beans is a great option for you and should be your option. 48-foot walk-in humidor with hundreds of different types of cigars, from the longest of Churchill length to what you want. A smooth smoke or one that's got a little bit more flavor or a little bit more oomph to it, that's up to you. From Cohiba to Padron to Ashton to Macanudo to Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, and more. They also have CBD products, including Vita Dreams. You take a Vita Dream, you kind of learn what you take at night, allows you to fall asleep a lot more restfully and get that extra 30 minutes to an hour of sleep. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
That's another $10. The Big 12 Conference sent out a press release earlier today, coming off the weekend in Kansas City, that their year-by-year or year-over-year 38% increase in ticket revenue. The women's ticket revenue was a 20% increase. Premium courtside seating and advanced sales, absolutely huge, long waiting list due to the high demand and interest, and that will probably grow after people saw where those seats actually are, even though the media was moved away, way away. Talked about social media platform ups and all that, and impressions and followers. Total attendance for the men's tournament, 90,000. On average, 18,000 per session, a 13% increase over last year. The women, 5,000 per game, a 24% year-over-year increase it used to be in Oklahoma City. So, and so there we are. And, of course, 7,000 fans appeared to watch the after party with DJ Shackman Diesel. That was something we showed video of the closeout yesterday's show. We're now joined by Kendall Kaut, covers Baylor for Sikkim365.com, also an analyst for us on 365 Sports. Kendall, correct me if I'm wrong. You were very high on this Baylor men's basketball team, as most people would or should have been. But are you flummoxed or like wondering who they can possibly turn out to be starting on Friday?
I am, Smokey. There's still a lot of questions for this team. I mean, you have a sample size of over 30 games where we know Baylor's not great defensively. On Ken Palm's system, they rank 104th. If you don't like analytics, you got a pretty easy argument. Watch the games. You know they haven't been good defensively. Same time, Adam Flagler, LJ Cryer, Keyonte George, that's an incredible tandem of guards. You just feel like one of these games you're going to put it together. You hope it can be the NCAA tournament, but time really is getting late right now for him, Smokey.
Kendall, how do you feel about the draw?
Paul, I think UCSB is a pretty good team. I know you all had that good discussion with the voice of UCSB. They're excited. They have some moments where they look pretty good, but amongst 14 seeds, you lose to this one. Not really any spin zone for it, much the same way there wasn't really any spin zone to lose to Georgia State back in the day. And then Creighton is a really tough second-round matchup. Creighton ranked higher than Baylor on KenPom, a little bit lower on Torvik, but my guess is when that line comes out on Baylor-Creighton, if that game occurs in the second round, given Denver's a lot closer to Omaha than it is to Waco, Creighton travels well. I'm guessing Creighton's actually going to be favored by about 1.5 in Vegas, so that's a scary second-round matchup.
Kendall, what are you looking at most deeply or looking at exactly as we head into Friday, whether it be something that UCSB does or just something that you've seen from Baylor recently that you're intrigued? For example, I mean, we know the Langston Love injury is going to remain a question until then, but is there anything about what they've been doing play-wise that you're curious about seeing coming up on Friday?
Craig, I'm kind of curious about three things. Offensively, did Baylor just decide to put UCSB in a bunch of middle pick and rolls? UCSB's center is not very quick. I watched their championship game on Monday morning, and he didn't look like a guy who could contain guys out west. I don't think he can contain Baylor's guards very effectively. Defensively, I wonder how Baylor will do with a bigger point guard. Miller is the point guard from UCSB. Not an NBA quality guy, but certainly a European basketball quality guy. He was his league player of the year. At 6'5", you go back to that UCLA game and how UCLA posted up guards so effectively. I think you worry a little bit that could they get some offensive points by posting up guards, just cutting pretty well. And the third thing I would think about with this team, Craig, is how funky does it get? If I'm UCSB, I don't want to play a traditional basketball game. Baylor has better athletes. If you're honest with yourself, Baylor has a better coaching staff as well. And so how do you get an advantage in those situations? You get a little funky. So I'm interested in what's the first kind of chess move Baylor hasn't predicted. Is that throwing out a weird zone defense? Is that having your four-man Miller, who's a really good three-point shooter, just play the 5 and give up a little bit more defensively, but say you're going to outscore Baylor? So there'll definitely be some wrinkles to this game because I don't think they'll play it just as they played most of the season.
All right, so we know who they can be when they won 10 of 11. We also have seen who they have been. And even against Marquette or the second half against KU or Kansas State. So my question is, who are they, Kendall?
Smokey, I think they are a good team, and I've written this before, a good team who is sometimes great, but is too often poor. And you really know a lot about Baylor for how long are their poor stretches. The KU game, I thought they played the best basketball they had all year for about 10 minutes in that first half, and they were just giving it to the Jayhawks in Allen Fieldhouse. In that second half, other than maybe the Marquette game, that was the worst I'd seen a Baylor team play in probably 3 seasons, and I was real close to the action to see kind of how it all fell apart. They are the sum of all of those parts, which means why it's so unpredictable for Baylor. I would not be shocked if I'm seeing you all and we're getting dinner together, fellas, in Houston. I would not be shocked if, even a 3-14 upset happens. I'd be surprised by that, but I wouldn't be shocked if Baylor loses to Creighton on Sunday, and I don't even, see you all in Louisville.
How would you describe this season if they don't get out of the first weekend?
I like these guys a lot, Smokey, but given, you mentioned my role as to analyze the team, it's nothing but a disappointment. And that's hard. That's a testament to Scott Drew. It's a testament to Adam Flagler and the players, the expectations at Baylor. It's not sufficient to get a 3 seed and lose in the first weekend, but it's not. This was a team with a lot of talent. This is a great coaching staff. My guess is within the next couple of years, I think John Jacobs and Alford will be head coaches somewhere else. And you look back at this staff, much like the championship staff now with Jerome Peng as a part of it, and say, wow, that was an excellent staff. Unbelievable collection of guys. And then I think Adam Flagler, I think Keyonte George is certainly an NBA player. So if they don't get out of that first weekend, as tough as it is, because they didn't win the Big 12, because they didn't finish second in the league, I think it's hard to say it's anything but a disappointing season. As cruel as that is, that they've risen the program to a level where a top 10 finish is disappointing. But it really is if you don't get out of that first weekend and you don't really contend for the Big 12 title the final weeks of the season either.
So what do you think has been the focus of this last week of not having to play games, which I know that losing back-to-back and getting thumped really hard by Iowa State isn't a good way to end the season, but I do think it's not the worst thing that they didn't have to play another game or so in the Big 12 tournament, given how the last 2.5 weeks of the season, 3 weeks really went.
Sure. So I think, first off, obviously we know rebounding is going to be a huge deal for Baylor, Paul, with there are no ways that we talk about you can't spin the performance. 44-17, more offensive rebounds for Iowa State than total rebounds for Baylor. I know that was their focus. I talked to a couple people that I know were involved in the scout for UCSB. I know they're going all out with trying to catch every wrinkle UCSB can throw at them, be prepared for everything. I heard their flight got delayed a little bit out of Denver, but they're flying out at about 5:30 today or head to the airport around then. So I know they've really been preparing this morning. I think they're probably looking at lineup differences. I would expect Dale Bonner to get some real run here, and hopefully Langston Love can go on Friday as well. So I think it's trying to capture every wrinkle because when you're playing a 14 seed, you haven't scouted all season. harder to know the tendencies because even the Baylor players, if they're not as in-depth for the scouting report, well, they've watched KU play maybe 10 times on their own, or they've watched Iowa State play. That's the challenge to a UCSB, that this isn't the 16 seed like Norfolk State, or, I know you all love the Hartford coach, and I always love listening to John Gallagher, but Hartford was just going to get out-talented by Baylor every time they played. UCSB is out-talented by Baylor, but it's not the same degree as those 116 games. So Baylor wants to make sure they're not caught off guard by anything they might do on Friday.
So last year they got knocked out in the second round by North Carolina, who made a run. So that might have – it didn't make it easier, but at least they made the run and almost it looked like they were going to win the national championship. Isn't it a compliment when people start to moan and groan and question, not anything about the program really, but what this team's overall accomplishment or lack of one is if you don't get out of the first round or the first weekend of the tournament? Isn't that a compliment?
Oh, it absolutely is, Smokey. I mean, 15 years ago, people were going insane that Baylor was the final 11th seed in the NCAA tournament, only to lose easily to Purdue. And now people feel disappointed if Baylor doesn't have a banner hung every year. But unfortunately, if you raise the expectations, that's what happens. I mean, same deal that when you all started 365 radio, the expectations might have been a little lower. You're building up your audience on a new platform. Well, if you went back to what your audience was 2 years ago, you all wouldn't be happy. You haven't. You all continue to grow and thrive, which has been what's so positive. But expectations rise. Things should change. The goal is to get better. The goal is to be better. And you create big expectations. You want to win big. You have to live with the consequences of those if you don't live up to them. That can leave you pretty depressed and sad in life sometimes, but it's those expectations that also let you thrive to the level Baylor had 2 seasons ago. And I know that if in their heart of hearts, I think if you talk to Scott or the assistant coaches and the players, if you told them before the season you'll be a 3 seed, you won't win the Big 12, you get knocked out in Denver before the end of the first weekend, none of them would have accepted that offer.
Would you say that year over year now that Sweet 16 is the floor?
I think most years that should be the floor, Paul. Obviously, I think KU is the program that Baylor really kind of aspires to be, and they've been better than KU a lot over the last 4 seasons. But KU had some seasons where they've lost the first round early in Bill Self's tenure, and they've lost in the second round. But I think generally Baylor wants to be a 1 or a 2 seed every year and contend for a Big 12 title. You might have a down year where you miss on a couple of guys in the portal, but I do agree, Paul, the normal outcome should be Baylor is in the second weekend about every year, kind of like Gonzaga is. And then you have those years where something comes together, especially like it did for the championship year. You win a title. But, yes, I think the expectation of Baylor is this is at least a Sweet 16 program every season. So to not make one is clearly a disappointment for the Bears.
Kendall, is Scott Drew developing the reserves as far as assistant coaching staff go? You mentioned a couple that are on staff now that could be very well head coaches in the future. He's obviously got, close to a handful developing, as far as current head coaches go. I mean, is there some reserves ready to step up and be next in line on that bench?
I think there are. Ty Beard's been the video coordinator for a long time. Really good dude. Son-in-law of John Morris. Does an excellent job. I sat through a scout before the Iowa State game last year. Really gets the guys together well. And I talked to a couple GAs when I went to the hotel to meet with Dale Bonner for an interview. And they were like, yeah, Ty really wants to get this, and this. So he's very well prepared. Tweety Carter in player development. I've talked to the players this year about how important Tweety's been to them. There are other guys on the staff that I don't know quite as well that are those rungs that are above GA but are not assistants now that I know they respect. And then just with how good Baylor's been, that's an easy system for you to bring in guys from other programs as well. So I really expect a really strong performance for Baylor staff to continue. But it's sort of the same deal. When you lose Jared Butler, you lose Davion Mitchell. You know those guys are good. That's what's tough about losing your great assistants. But good problem to have that you're so good you lose those assistants. But Jerome Tang was a loss for the Bears. And if John Jacobs or Al Brooks eventually get head jobs, that'll be a real loss for Baylor too, Craig.
All right, so who must – it's obvious Flo Thamba has to play better. It's obvious that even Jonathan Chama-Chachua, even though it's a great story, him coming back, has to play better. He had a nice, surge when he first came back and then kind of leveled off a little bit just because it's hard. Langston Love is questionable because of the eye injury of whether he can even play. Who has to play better? Who must play better for this team to be playing in the second weekend?
I think it's Keyonte George, Smokey. He's obviously going to be the highest-rated draft pick for Baylor. He'll probably get picked in the top 14 and go in the lottery. We saw what he did second half Iowa State, what he did against Virginia, what he did at times against Oklahoma this season, what he's done in the first half at Allen Fieldhouse, what he did against Gonzaga. I mean, he is that guy that when he's on, there is no defense who can play against him. What I'd like to see from Key this weekend is him get into the paint a little bit more, draw some more fouls, put pressure on teams, muck up the game a little bit so that when teams get on offense, they're thinking about, man, how do we stop Keyonte George and not, okay, this is exactly what I need to cut against Baylor. I think if Keyonte George has a big weekend, that's the difference for Baylor. When Keyonte George is playing like he played against Gonzaga, Baylor is the best team in the country. It's just a lot to ask Keyonte George to be the best player in the country so many times.
And they surely didn't bring him to Waco, and they surely aren't doing what he does when it comes to the recruitment, NIL, and whatever else to be where they are right now. And so maybe he can possibly change the narrative, and Baylor can this weekend up in Denver.
That would absolutely be excellent, and that is why they brought him to Waco as well, Smokey. I mean, he didn't come to Baylor to lose in the first round. He had the option to go to Texas. Any school in the country would have taken Keyonte George. I know he loves going to Baylor. I talked to him for a while in the locker room after the game. So he's going to be amped for this weekend. I know he's going to be geared up for it, so hopefully he has a big weekend.
All right. Thank you very much, Kendall. Paul, Greg. All right. Kendall Kaut. Thank you, buddy. Kendall Kaut, Sikkim365.com, men's basketball analyst, and also a part of this show on 365 Sports. Yeah, you know, he didn't come here just to play 1 year of college basketball because he couldn't go pro. He came here because he thought he could help continue, and now his legacy, what is his legacy now? And obviously it can change based on what happens over the next 1, 2, or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think his legacy now is just that he's a really talented player on a team that doesn't quite know its future yet. But if they get into Sweet 16 and he's a big part of that, then his legacy is secure. But you don't want to have it like Baylor's had a couple of their guys that were short timers, one and dones, and I know.
Okay, let's add. Okay, if they were to get to the Sweet 16, where is he compared to names like other, not quite one and done, like Perry Jones III
or Quincy
Miller? Where is he with them?
I would think that if they get to the Sweet 16, he's above them. I think that's for sure. I think he may be above them anyway, but you just don't want to have that same feeling of like, man, you only have this guy for a year and then you don't have it. I do think that you have that feeling with Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown last year is that, he's probably going to be in that category where Sohan and Brown, better players overall than Perry Jones and Quincy Miller, no doubt about it. And guys that could have helped you win a national championship.
Quincy Miller was pretty good, wasn't he?
He was, but I just think that those guys,
NBA-wise, compared to those guys, I mean, Kendall Brown's not doing anything, but Sohan's having a really nice year.
Yeah,
and Sohan was not, when he was recruited, there was really not much thought he might be only there 1 year.
Yeah, Kendall Brown's been an afterthought. He's been hurt. He's not played a ton that I've seen. He's got some time to, I guess, figure his way and find his spot. But Sohan's right in the thick of things.
But yeah, right now you have Kendall Brown and Quincy Miller and Perry Jones that kind of live in that area, right? And then you've got Keyonte George, who I think is above them, but below Jeremy Sohan. And even though Jeremy Sohan, they didn't get to the next weekend, the only reason they had a chance to get to the next weekend
because of Jeremy
Sohan.
He muddied that game up.
Yeah. So I think right now you're looking at, but you don't. I have the same feeling about Jeremy Sohan. It's like, dang, they only had him for a year. And
you put, and again, it's a lot of what ifs. You put that guy, the glue, the toughness, the ability to get under skin on this team that lacks that across the board.
He was Mark Vital with a better shot. That's what he was. Yeah. So he was that guy that he was the psycho. They've always had a bit of a psycho. Ish Wainwright was a psycho. He was maybe the first one that was, because they got to number one when Ish was kind of the emotional center of that team. The guy was like, all right, we're going to muddy this thing up. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. That's Mark Vital. That was Jeremy Sohan. I think that the next one is supposed to be Jonathan Chamachachua, but, his knee is what it was. So that's what he's going to have to come back from. So if they can get that out of him next year, then maybe they can be that Scott Drew team that can win in all kind of ways. But right now they just don't have a psycho, or they have one that he's just not at full power.
Yeah, Kendall Brown's actually, I looked, I hadn't checked on him in a while. I know that he had gotten hurt, but didn't realize the extent of it. But yeah, he's out for the year. I mean, he wasn't playing a ton as it was, but that's not the news you'd like to hear. So he's going to be somebody who takes a little while to probably ingratiate themselves, in the pros. But yeah, Jeremy Sohan's doing well for himself, although he's a little dinged up now as well, but not to the extent of Kendall Brown. So I think Keyonte George is a guy who you expect to go be a first-round draft pick, a guy you expect to be a lottery pick, and a guy that you expect to go be a star in the NBA. I'm not saying he's going to be LeBron or even James Harden or, Ja Morant, not Ja Morant right now, Ja Morant, but Ja Morant personal life stuff. But he's a guy that's got all the attributes and the makings of a star. Yeah, I mean, that's what he's supposed to be. And so, I think if you were to go bow out in the round of 32 with the roster that you put together, it's not just Keyonte, it's LJ Cryer, it's Adam Flagler. Like, this is not just a one-trick pony. This is a roster they are not going to just replace next year, guys. They're not just going to go like, all right, Flagler, Cryer, George, like let's just roll in these new guys and Jacoby Walter will replace them. No, like, so that's where I come from on this too. When I keep saying the whole like, I hope they realize, because you're young people and you don't always realize. You think you got 70 years left to live, and like there's just nothing ever ends. And all of a sudden though, you're going to be Keyonte George, and you lose to like, UC Santa Barbara in the opening round, and boom, reality check, like your college career's over. Yeah. And so, I don't want them to be the guys who 20 years from now are looking around going like, damn, we had a squad and we completely squandered it because we didn't come in with our A game. And I think that at their best, and this is another part that just got conveniently skipped over, but the negative comment got dwelled upon. But I think we've all said at their best, they're capable of playing anybody. If they're on fire shooting the ball and scoring, then they can go and play with anybody in the entire country. The problem with that is can they do that like time after time after time after time in this tournament? It's hard to imagine they can do that. So what else can they do if they're not shooting well? Play defense, grab boards. Are they very good at either one of those things? No, and that's where the negativity comes in, is you can't sit there and convince me that the team who's at their best when they're shooting supremely well and scoring at will, but has never really been all that great at being tough or all that great just defensively or on the boards, is suddenly, because it's March Madness, going to go, you know what? We're all of a sudden going to start bullying some people. We're all of a sudden going to get mean down low. We're all of a sudden. I don't buy into that. And so that's where I'm coming from.
When you mention another option other than scoring, the 2021 national championship team, there was one team that pushed them in the tournament, and it was Villanova. And they won that game, not with their offense. They won that game because they turned that into a street fight defensively when they forced numerous turnovers to a seasoned team. This team doesn't, and that team's once in the last 15 or 25 years. But we haven't really seen that much at all. They won that game, not with their offense, but they won that game because they made Villanova like petrified to cross midcourt. And turned a team that was good, even though they were missing their point guard, into one that could not get a possession.
They had historically good defense. This team's got, for this program, an historically good offense, but you can't always rely on that in a tournament setting to be clicking night in and night out. And so something's got to come from somewhere else, and that's the problem. But when they're at their best, can they play and beat anybody? Absolutely. And I've said that, and I'll maintain that. And if they go and they play their best in the tournament, then, hey, they're off to the races, and we'll see them, go flying through these rounds and winning some really tough games against some great opponents. But, let's see it. It's just, if we're making predictions and basing it off of the things that we've already seen, that we've seen for 30 games, well, then what's more realistic and what's staying more grounded? It's saying that they're going to, suddenly turn into a team that they haven't really been for most of the year, or saying that, like, hey, I think these warts that they've displayed all year long could be the thing that unravels them. And that's where I'm coming from.
Daniel Acton, Smokey, Paul Craig, loyal listener who's been here from the beginning of the season, will be a failure if they don't make it to the Sweet 16, in my opinion. Maybe I think that because I'm a fan and not an alum. So there's some of that as well. When we come back, we will continue to discuss. We had a lot of feedback on the Baylor topic, and also the NCAA topic discussion with the Big 12 teams and much more. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. The dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. He is my dentist. I'm proud of that, because he's really helped me understand, and just for some reason, the way he communicated with me back in the first time I met him, that I've got some work to do. And I've been able to overcome what were, quite frankly, almost embarrassingly, just neglect of my dental work. How stupid is that? You wake up, you brush your teeth, okay, that's it for the rest of the day. No, it's more than that. And so I have to go through some things. Root canals, tooth being replaced, couple of new crowns. You know what? I'd love to have gone back the last 20 years or so and done something a little bit better so I didn't have to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on crowns, but I did. But Dr. Childress is the one that gave me a game plan, and that's still in play. It is still in play with what he's done to help me understand. The hygienists, the staff, the dentist, including Dr. Steve Childress, they are elite at what they do. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes, cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar. Do this on Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45. Take a look at some headlines outside of our normal discussion, which has been March Madness heavy today and typically is pretty college football heavy, but not a lot to report from either of those in this segment, but a lot of NFL that we will be getting into. Although first I did want to make a mention, and I didn't know if you guys had seen this or not, but you two got to know Tiffany Blackman pretty well, correct?
Yeah. Rising star.
ESPN personality, sideline reporter. And let you explain how y'all got to know her, but I happened to see this in passing last night, that she is a part of a new show in Atlanta. We'll be joining 92.9 The Game, and she will be hosting the morning shift along with guys by the name of Mike Johnson and Bo Morgan that will begin later on this month, and it lays out in the press release how she's been doing XFL stuff here lately as a sideline reporter, also does a lot of college football as well, and if you heard her or saw her, you'd probably know exactly who I'm talking about here, but I did bring this up simply because y'all have a tie to her and knew her in her previous life, and I've heard mention of her over the last few years when y'all have been around and her name's been brought up, or others, that she is in fact a rising star, and now she's going to have her own radio show in Atlanta along with a couple of buddies, and that will be debuting later this month.
She was a one-time Woodrow dog sitter, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah. She's a big dog.
Do you think that's on her resume?
I mean, it should be. But yeah, so she used to come over and hang out with us and watch NFL games at the house a lot. Tiffany's a great reporter, did great work at NFL Network, does great work on the sidelines for ESPN now. It's going to be really fun on the radio. She's got a great personality. She's hilarious. So, yeah, super happy for her. And I'll reach out, try to get her on the show.
She's
sometime.
been on but with a couple of minutes. But, yeah, she was
a
rock star and very good at what she does on the national level, and she will probably be a rock star with what she's about to do in Atlanta.
Yep, so I just thought that was neat coming across her name and wanted to pass that long. Have you guys watched much of the World Baseball Classic?
A little bit, not as much as I'd like to. I will get into it as they get to the semifinals and the finals.
I saw where the United States had an 11-1 or 10-run inning last night against Canada, and there's some things that are kind of quirky because of pitch count on players, because they're trying to make sure nobody blows out their arm before they get to who they play for.
I bet you that's what Craig's about to get to.
Okay.
No, go right ahead.
No, and so that could lead to some games getting out of hand, also just the pure talent level.
Or it could lead to Puerto Rico combining on a perfect game.
Did you?
That was what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
It was Puerto Rico 10-0 over Israel in 8 innings on Monday night in the WBC. Throw a combined walk-off perfect game. That's Puerto Rico over Israel. First in World Baseball Classic history. This game was a part of Pool D, which is being played out in Miami. But Puerto Rico used 3 pitchers. Jose De Leon matched a WB record in his start, and they ended up winning via mercy rule. Kike Hernandez had a walk-off single in the 8th inning to give him the big dramatic end, but De Leon had 10 strikeouts through just about 6 innings. That was Puerto Rico's strikeout record, so he matched that, and also the record for strikeouts in a WBC game, so he earned that. But he hit his first-round pitch count limit, and therefore had to leave with 1 out in the 5th inning. So that's what you're referring to as the pitch count, right?
Yeah, I think so, and so you might see some things get a little wobbly.
Yeah, I wasn't going to focus on that part of it, but that is – I mean, when you have all these Major League Baseball players that their teams are actually the ones that pay them millions of dollars are waiting on them to come back and play Major League Baseball, I don't think a pitch count's a bad idea. So that's probably smart. And even with it in play, Puerto Rico still able to throw the first perfect game in World Baseball Classic history. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Are you going to have the story about what the Tigers have done with one of the players on one of those teams?
Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't have it. I was looking for it. There's a kid from Nicaragua, I believe, or the Dominican, he pitched. Who would Juan Soto? Mexico?
Juan Soto's Dominican,
Okay,
I believe.
this kid, 16-year-old kid, who doesn't throw the ball like 99 miles an hour, came in and faced 3 stars, struck out 2 or 3 of them, including Soto, gave up a double in between, and the Tigers signed him.
He's 21. His name's Duque Hebert.
Okay. He's 16. I'm just telling you, it doesn't sound as good if he's 20. But because of his performance, Craig, during the World Baseball Classic, and Paul, the Tigers signed him, even though he doesn't really throw the ball at a very high velocity.
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, struck out Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and Rafael Devers. So that's pretty impressive. And, yeah, an hour after the game, he apparently signed the deal with Detroit. So I had not seen that story. But, yeah, Duque Hebert or Ebert, 21 years old from Team Nicaragua, signed by the Tigers. So, yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I thought that the perfect game was the big headline last night, but I think that might be even cooler, actually.
Yeah, it's just a great little story. I mean, all of a sudden, yeah.
And those are, 3 names, obviously. So what a moment, what a night that must have been for that young man, just 21 years old. So, yeah, best of luck to him. And that's something that no matter what happens from here, he's got a crazy cool memory from this World Baseball Classic. But, yeah, I see now 5'10", 170. Struck out Rodriguez on an 80-mile-per-hour slider. Gave up a double to Manny Machado and then struck out Devers on a changeup. And, so good for him. And, the World Baseball Classic continues to roll along. Have a couple of games already in the books today. Canada beat Colombia 5-0. Venezuela also with a win over Nicaragua 4-1. And then you have later on tonight, 6 p.m. on FS1, Israel and the Dominican Republic. And tonight at 9 o'clock also on FS1, so it'll be a baseball doubleheader, WBC doubleheader. Israel and Dominican Republic, FS1, 6 o'clock. That'll be followed by Great Britain and Mexico in the nightcap of the WBC's Tuesday lineup. Right now in Pool A, which is being played out in Taichung, you've got Cuba, Italy, the Netherlands, Panama, Chinese Taipei are all 2-2. That whole pool is gridlocked. In Pool B out in Tokyo, home team Japan is currently 4-0. The Aussies are 3-1. Pool C in Phoenix, Arizona, they got U.S. at 2-1. Canada, Colombia, Mexico 1-1. Great Britain 1-2. And then in Pool D in Miami, Venezuela 3-0. Puerto Rico 2-1, Dominican Republic, Israel 1-1, and then Nicaragua is 0-4, which is the only them and China, the only winless team so far through these first 4 games. So a couple games headed your way tonight, but definitely want to make mention of the World Baseball Classic. You know how Twitter creates like these whole firestorm arguments, and I saw one where now everybody's feeling like the WBC is being disrespected because it's on FS1, it's not on a major network. Do y'all have any type of particularly strong feelings on that?
I mean,
or is this manufactured? You know what? And you know where it came from? It came from RJ Choppy, I think. That's where I saw it. Was our buddy on the fan.
Great fan of ours. It's disrespected, but Fox paid for it.
Yes.
So, I mean, okay, they paid what the baseball powers that be wanted, and they got it. So that's why.
If they want to put it on FS1, that's the poll. They want to bring viewers to FS1. Yeah. That's what they wanted to do. But, if you want to see it elsewhere, I guess, have somebody else bid for it or get it. And I guess the thought is that if it's
once every 3 years, it's been 6. So,
yeah. And I guess just the thought is if it's big time that everything should be on ESPN Main or it should be on ABC or – I know. WBC should have just gone all streaming. That's what they should have done. That would have solved every problem.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
No, but – yeah, I mean that's I thought just kind of an argument for argument's sake, just for no reason really. Yeah. All right, now to some big NFL news. There's a lot of that going on. By the way, I did see where Aaron Rodgers will be appearing on the Pat McAfee show tomorrow, where that has been kind of in question as he's been going through his New York flirtations and trying to figure out what he's going to do next, and all signs point to Rodgers and the Jets, so much so that apparently today one of the big stories is that he's already put together a wish list of what he wants to see on the Jets roster. Diane Ursini from ESPN had this, but apparently, according to her report, Rodgers told the Jets that if they do land him in a trade, he's got a few names that he wants to be surrounded by, wish list of free agents, if you will. That includes Odell Beckham Jr., and that also includes some teammates of his, Alan Lazard,
I think
Iowa
they signed
State,
him already.
Randall Cobb, and tight end Mercedes Lewis were all names that he apparently had put out there. He'd never played with Odell, so that one was kind of an outlier, but apparently they're buddies. Garrett Wilson has been active on Twitter. I think everybody involved with the Jets in any form or fashion has been very much watching Aaron Rodgers' every move. So tomorrow he is going to be joining McAfee, and I think that'll probably be a pretty highly rated segment. I wonder where that will fall in the all-time highest rated segments with Aaron Rodgers. I would imagine near the top, though, because people want to hear what he has to say, especially given all of this smoke and everything that's out there. And knowing those guys, or knowing McAfee, he'll definitely get into the bottom of all of this.
You hope that it's not just an appearance. Even if you just get Aaron Rodgers on, you hope that there's some meat on the bone.
Well, there will be.
And there needs to be for McAfee. He's a rock star, and obviously Rodgers with Green Bay just like every night wondering, is he a part of us or not? And then the Jets fans are all jacked up, which they should be.
Yeah, Green Bay doesn't really want him anymore. So, I mean, that's why this is open the door, and they've made that clear.
But they're not going to just give him away.
No, and they're not.
And they shouldn't.
They're not stupid.
But I bet they're tired of the drama.
Yeah. Now, if the Jets get him and then do the shopping list and don't win a Super Bowl, they're going to feel really stupid.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and as far, I don't know I bet you've never watched McAfee and Rodgers together, have you?
Yeah, I have. I have. They're funny as hell.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of meat on the bone.
Out of each other, yeah.
There'll be plenty of meat on the bone. I mean, he's not going to probably announce where he's going, but then again, he could, and if he did so, I wouldn't be all that surprised by it.
Yeah, neither would I.
I really wouldn't.
But to me, if because it also allows Aaron Rodgers to troll the media he doesn't like.
Yes.
So Pat McAfee can ask him, and then maybe that's the thing. It's I'm going to do it. We'll get it worked out, and then because he has to do it, I think before close of business sometime this week.
I thought it was Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
And that just weird how that day when you were talking about it. I think it's Thursday. I'm not sure exactly the deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of that, he had said during an appearance back in January when looking at people that he respected or people that he liked, he had said, a guy like Mercedes Lewis, he's an important cog in the wheel of the locker room and the momentum of the team. That's a guy I want to finish my career with. If I'm playing, I want that guy next to me. He also said, I want the Randall Cobbs of the world. If he wants to keep playing in my locker room, guys you can win with, Alan Lazard. And then he mentioned a couple of others, including his good buddy David Bakhtiari. He said there's a lot of interesting names that we'll see if there's desire to re-sign certain guys that are glue guys in the locker room. Will be an interesting conversation to be had. So there he mentioned some of these names that are on this list that Diane Rossini's reporting, right? And then he mentioned Alan Lazard. Yes, did in fact today sign with the New York Jets. Yeah. So every kind of puzzle piece and every kind of clue is all heading in one direction, but a 4-year, $44 million deal, $22 million guaranteed for Alan Lazard and the Jets. So one of many moves, it looks like, could still be to come for them in what has been a very busy day for the NFL.
Good luck with Aaron Rodgers and the New York media.
Yeah, that's the part of the story that doesn't make any sense, is the fact that he is not the type of guy that you would suspect is really all that enthralled by the idea of New York media. But then again, maybe he's already worked out how he'll handle all that.
Perfectly able to handle it,
yeah. Make enough money and play enough and be happy enough with who you got around you. Meanwhile, did want to at least mention this because there's a lot going on as far as NFL signings, as I mentioned. For example, Darren Waller going from the Raiders to the New York Giants. Andy Dalton has signed a 2-year deal with the Carolina Panthers as we start to see them try to build out what they want to do under Frank Reich. You also have the Alan Lazard deal to the Jets that I mentioned as well. James Bradbury returning to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good.
And there's a few more, but I'll go ahead. Actually, mentioning the Eagles, Rashad Penny heading to Philadelphia as they're going to go their separate ways with Miles Sanders. So that's another move by Philadelphia as they will pass the torch from Sanders to Penny. And there's another one before I get to that one, which is what I'm trying to end on. But we just talked about Kelvin Beacham the other day, who's our good buddy, and his comments about Kyler Murray. And, it'll be interesting when they run into each other because they're going to remain teammates as he signed with the Cardinals today. I think
they'll handle it well.
Yeah, a re-signing for the Mahia, Texas native who has been with them here most recently. $4.5 million includes $2 million signing bonus. He'll make a little over $1 million fully guaranteed in salary this year. But, yeah, Kelvin Beacham going back to Arizona on a 2-year deal. And he will be back with Kyler Murray, who he said, if you missed that, is a great player and all those things, but he needs to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's any breaking news to Kyler. It's just a matter of how much did it really settle into his brain and how much will he respond to what everybody's probably told him at this point. So that's interesting. And then finally, closing out a little off the radar here,
The Colts have traded cornerback Stephon Gilmore to the Dallas Cowboys for a 5th-round draft pick. Cowboys giving the Colts pick number 176 overall, which was a 5th-round compensatory pick. They got 2 of those last week, so they unload one of those, and they bring in a brand-new veteran cornerback in return. He'll be in the final year of his contract. He'll make a little less than $8 million in base salary. He's 32 years old, started 16 games last year for Indy, and he'll be playing opposite Trayvon Diggs, so pretty big name for the Cowboys and a big addition at corner.
He's won championships.
Yeah.
He was once Defensive Player of the Year. Pro Bowler. I mean, he's had a hell of a career. He brings probably something they need, a little bit more, even more maturity into that locker room.
So,
and what does that mean for Anthony Brown?
He's done.
Okay.
I mean, like, they can maybe bring him back in training camp if they need a guy. But he tore his Achilles, so he tore his Achilles late, so it's not going to be an early season entrance for Anthony Brown. So they needed to make this move. It's a compensatory pick, so it's found money, right? After you lose somebody, so they turn that around into something. It's on an expiring contract. Again, didn't go. This is a really smart move by the Cowboys. It's going to be good for Diggs. It's going to be good for Deron Bland. It'll be maybe even good for Kelvin Joseph in the long run if he's still on the team. But, yeah, Stephon Gilmore comes in, and I like that move. Plus, he's a big corner. He's a veteran corner that always works well with Dan Quinn. Their secondary's, pretty much coming back improved now that they have, all 3 safeties, Hooker, Curse, and now Donovan Wilson yesterday under contract. I like the move. That's a good, steady, low-risk, high-reward move by the Cowboys.
Wonder if that calms fans down about not signing people in free agency. I would rather make trades like this than go sign somebody at an overvalued price because it's the early part of free agency.
At $22 million. Allen Lazard's a good receiver, but say Aaron Rodgers only plays 2 years, then you're still on the hook for $22 million guaranteed. You can go through all these lists, and there's just not a lot of great free agency deals that age well. So yeah, I like this one. This is a smart move.
Yep, so Stephon Gilmore headed to the Cowboys. As I mentioned, there's a ton of other deals being made left and right as far as today goes. Darren Waller to the Giants was, one of the bigger names, but yeah. I ran down, Lazard obviously with the Aaron Rodgers implications, but been a busy and yet fun day in the NFL, so we'll wrap it up with that. Those are a few things off the radar.
Very nice. By the way, speaking of Kelvin Beacham from Mejia, Texas, Ray Rhodes, former player and coach, from Mejia, Texas. Who's the most famous person from Mejia, Texas, Paul?
Sadly enough, it's Anna Nicole Smith.
Anna Nicole Smith.
But, our good friend Kent Johnston, Clay Johnston's dad, Mejia Black Cat.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's no Anna Nicole Smith, though.
No. he would happily tell you that.
Les Baxter, musician and composer. I've heard that name somewhere. I don't know, maybe because I'm 63. When we come back, we'll hear from Travis Roeder, Baylor, and many teams who have already started spring drills. Baylor starts next week. His thoughts, a little preview beforehand. Tomorrow, I believe, we have Cooperstein, Douster, Gelb, and Flaherty, all our college basketball analysts. They'll join us tomorrow here on 365 Sports, along with a few other, including an NFL draft analyst, John Cooper from Our Lads Guide to the NFL Draft. And speaking of that, our thoughts out with Dan Shunka, who's been under the weather, suffered a stroke about a year ago. He's in recovery. Talk to him today as he goes through physical therapy. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Marco's Pizza, they didn't have a location in Waco, and now they have 5 because the owner, Bob Mock, has built 5 stores around the area. Hewitt, Woodway, Robinson, China Spring, and Belmead. Marco's Pizza, one of our favorites. We order it. Most of the time, it's a large, thin crust. One time, it's going to have all the meat you can imagine on it. And another one's going to be pepperoni magnifico, which is loaded with very little room at all anywhere on the pie other than pepperoni everywhere. And on top of that, they have pizza bowls and salads and sandwiches and more. And they will deliver. You can also go online, marcos.com, and they have different code numbers, code words you can use to get this off. $3, $2, whatever. It's Marco's Pizza, 5 locations in Waco area. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
During Ram Truck Month, get incredible deals on Ram trucks at Allen Samuels in Waco. Come see why Ram continues to win awards year after year. Browse online or come shop the greatest selection of new car and truck inventory in stock today at Allen Samuels.
This is the soundtrack of life at Baylor.
There's a spark in your heart and a fire that's in your eyes.
If you're ready to take a big step toward a bright future, tap the banner below to check out the music video for a glimpse of life at Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
This Baylor Athletics segment brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, Buick GMC Cadillac, people you can count on. We're now joined by Travis Roeder. He covers Baylor football, college football, Sikkim365.com, and also here on 365 Sports. Travis, my goodness, I can't imagine. After a 6-7 season, so many questions. People have left, people have arrived, not just recruits, but transfers. Off the top of your head, it's so early to say it. What do you expect? Because that's boring. But what 1 or 2 storylines have, at least for right now or on Monday, your most attention?
I mean, I think obviously, all right, thanks for having me on again, guys. But obviously the quarterback battle is going to be at the forefront of everyone's mind. It's going to be a bit anticlimactic this spring, I imagine, just because, you know, I really cannot imagine a scenario in which Baylor is going to name a starting quarterback after this spring. You know, they need the competition to go into the fall. I expect those guys to be close. And B, you know, the new transfer kid, Sawyer Robertson, coming in from from Mississippi State, played at Lubbock Coronado. He was in that Mike Leach system, and so he was playing in an air raid system where I don't think he ever touched the center's behind before. So he's going to have to learn how to play under center and do all that fun stuff that is required in the Baylor Jeff Grimes offense. So I think he's going to need a spring to acclimate. So I think that the quarterback competition is at the forefront. And I think the other really kind of just undercurrent, underlying theme of this spring is going to be the fact that last year they only took a few transfers. Aranda has spoken about how he really bet on some of the older guys who had never produced before on the team, and he has kind of acknowledged that was a mistake. And so this year, I think you really saw a different deal where they've I don't know the total number of transfers, but it's got to be right around 10 guys, which is, basically 10% of your roster. And I think what you're going to see is just the fact that they took so many guys. So how do all those new transfers come in? A lot of them have experience. They're going to come in and kind of elevate the competition level from the get-go. So I think that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Travis, among those transfers are a couple offensive linemen, the Barrington brothers,
right,
and a bunch of guys who, barely even really know each other's first names as far as telling them what to do on the O-line. That was a strength of this team. Now it is a huge question mark. How quickly do you think that comes together?
Well, I don't think it's going to come together quickly in the spring. That's very much going to be another position where it's probably going to be a little bit anticlimactic. Of course, I'm going to be curious to see what positions guys are primarily spending their time at. But this is not going to be a situation, I think, where anybody comes in and just plays one position, gets 95% of the reps with the ones, and immediately wins a job. I think this is very much going to be a deal where everyone's learning 2-3 positions, a lot of rotation, a lot of competition, figuring out where guys end up. And then by the time we get to game one in the fall, that's when you're going to see things solidify. But, I will say, anytime you lose 5 offensive line starters, that's a big deal. But as long as Eric Mateos is around, it's just a unit where Baylor is never going to have a bad unit. With him coaching the O-line, it's just O-line especially is just really a position that's so much about technique and effort. And Baylor certainly has some talent to work with. So, yeah, I expect some hiccups, and I think, obviously it'll take them some time to gel, but when you've got one of the top offensive lineman coaches in America leading things for you, I think that unit is going to be more than fine this year.
What will be the strength of the offense this year? Because it sure seems like they have a lot of question marks at the moment, from O-line to who's playing quarterback. I know they've reloaded the receiver room, but that's quite a bit of question marks outside of Monterey Baldwin. I guess Hal Presley could step up, but where are you kind of looking as far as the sure thing, the strength going into spring?
That's a great question, Craig, because, as I'm racking my brain as you just asked me that, because I expect the offense to be quite good this year, even though they are replacing so many pieces, and that's for a variety of reasons. But, a big one is that I really like the kid they took from Oklahoma State, the transfer, Dominic Richardson. And even though he's going to be playing behind a brand new offensive line, as I kind of just talked about, I expect that unit to be good under Mateos' tutelage there. And Richardson is a guy that, I was really high on Tay McWilliams and Squirrel Williams last year. Tay got knocked out early in the year with concussions. Squirrel dealt with a scary knee injury in fall camp, and I thought he just never really looked the same after that injury. Dominic is much more like an Abram Smith, where he's a big kid. He's about 6 foot, 215, runs behind his pads, and he played behind a terrible offensive line at Oklahoma State, but he was still able to churn out yards. You go back and watch that Oklahoma State win at Baylor this past year. A lot of it was because they were handing the ball off into the teeth of the Baylor defense, and Dominic Richardson was, hitting a defensive lineman at the line of scrimmage, but still managing to kind of churn through and get 2 or 3 yards. And that's what Oklahoma State did. They just kind of ground Baylor down. So long story short there, even though they're replacing so many offensive linemen, I do think just with the time they've had with this offense and how to build the wide zone, playing under Eric Mateos and Jeff Grimes, I think the running game is going to be a real strength, because behind Dom Richardson, they have some good talent as well.
Travis Roeder covers Baylor football with us on 365 Sports. What is Dave Aranda he has the new staff, obviously, with the new defensive coordinator and what he brings to the table, which seems to be maybe a little bit of infusion of youth and perhaps energy. Running backs coach and Stewart, he comes in as well. What do you expect from someone, Christian Robinson? Do you see anything new with what they bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think, 61365 did this wonderful NIL breakfast thing with Aranda and Grimes and Pallage. And there was a lot of insight given there, and that video is up on 61365 if anybody wants to watch the full interview. But, it's kind of remarkable, Smokey, and y'all know Aranda is so forthright when you ask him anything, and he's so open about his mistakes and what he's wanting to improve upon. And basically every time he's been asked about the struggles of the defense and firing Ron Roberts and hiring a new defensive coordinator in Matthew Pallage, he's really been consistent about one thing, and that's relationships with players, positivity, energy. It's almost like he was trying to hire Scott Drew basically to be his defensive coordinator. And I think that really is something to watch because, in that 6 and 7 season last year, it's always dangerous as a media member, somebody outside of the team, to try and psychoanalyze the team. But I think pretty much any fan I talk to can kind of tell that something just wasn't right in the water on that side of the ball last year. And listening to Aranda talk, I think he would tell you the same. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, Ron is a bad defensive coordinator or anything like that, but just something wasn't right on that side of the ball last year. So I'm really looking forward to getting some energy and some vitality kind of re-injected into that side of the ball. And, Pallage is a young coach. He's really well known for being able to relate to kids well. And that doesn't just mean necessarily, know what kind of music they're listening to or something like that, but just coaches have to be able to meet with these guys on a face-to-face level and understand them. And from all reports, he's really great at doing that. And he's a great coach to boot.
Yeah, Travis, sometimes it's just time though, right? It's just not, people, you need to go somewhere else. It's not an indictment on anything. It's just, except for the fact that, professionally, it's just time for a new event in your life.
Yeah, I mean, Ron is a hell of a ball coach. I got to speak with him on a couple different occasions, and I love speaking with him. The guy, he has a bunch of old school kind of coaching clinics up on that you can find on YouTube and stuff like that, and you can just tell, like, man, like he is a ball coach. He knows ball. Like he is old school. And again, that's what's so interesting about building a college football staff is there's no one formula that works at every spot. And every staff kind of needs the same mix of different things. So you're going to need some guys who are good at recruiting. You're going to need some guys who are good at relating to kids. You're going to need some guys who are really good X's and O's. And so you're going to find that at different spots. And so I think, again, kind of psychoanalyzing from afar here, I think one thing that we've learned is that, Dave Aranda is, in his own way, really good at relationships with players and things like that, but perhaps needed on the defensive side of the ball, Dave already has kind of the X's and O's and the ball coach aspect of it going. So maybe he needed somebody more like Pallage, who's got a little bit more, I don't know if you want to call it energy or what have you. Again, all these kind of words have so many stereotypes associated with them. But, I think just finding the right mix was certainly a big part of bringing Pallage in. And again, like you said, Paul, it doesn't necessarily mean Ron is a bad coach. He might do great at Auburn, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did because it's just a totally different scenario there. So I think this was the right move for Baylor, though.
With the new approach, new defensive coordinator, and now the absence of Siaki Ika, how does that change what you think that they do up front?
Yeah, I mean, so this is where, I won't get too technical over the radio, but essentially when you have Siaki Ika, he's 6'4", 300 and, however many pounds, I'm not sure what he weighed at the combine. Hopefully it was less than 380 or so, but I mean, he's a big dude. But he was really quick and he was a good pass rusher too. So he was really kind of that space alien type of interior defensive lineman where you can play him as a plug and he wouldn't get blown off the ball by double teams, but he could also do fun and creative stuff by getting in the backfield. So those kind of guys don't grow on trees. There's probably just a few of them that are available every offseason in college football. Baylor doesn't have one on the roster this year. They have good players. They just don't have an Apu Ika. And so what that means is that instead of kind of building the defense from the middle out in the sense of you could stick Apu in the middle there, have him command double teams, make plays in the backfield, I think you're going to see a little bit more of a return to how Dave Aranda really made his hay when he was at Wisconsin, which is really kind of being a lot more versatile and creative with how you use those defenders up front. Because, like I said, when you don't have an Apuika, you got to find different ways to get it done. And for Aranda, that means having a lot of guys who are a lot more versatile and can do different things as opposed to just kind of controlling the space in front of them.
All right, let's obviously teams who have at least an arrow up after last season: Texas Tech, Texas, TCU, Kansas State, and I think you have to include Kansas in that mix because of what they did.
Include Kansas.
And then you have Iowa State, West Virginia, Oklahoma State is in such transition, but I still think that Gundy, that's who he is. He's good. And then Oklahoma, year 2 under Venables, you would think they would get better. Then you have the bonuses of Houston, Brigham Young, Cincinnati, UCF. Is Baylor a contender for the upper half or lower half of the new Big 12 next season?
I think they have the talent to be in the upper half, no doubt. And so I think this is a critical year for Aranda. I think it's always kind of an uncomfortable topic when you start talking about, what coaches need to do, how many wins they need to get. But I think, when I've kind of just put my feelers out there to just various family members and friends and everybody else, when I talk about like, hey, how many games do y'all think Baylor needs to win for you this year to kind of feel good about things? And really the lowest number I've heard is 7, and most people are talking more like 8 wins. And so obviously a team isn't made by fan expectations, but I think it'd be foolish to not consider that fan expectations play a significant part in kind of the feeling and trajectory of a program. And, we all know how disappointing 6 and 7 felt this past year. And it kind of gave us a glimpse into what a 6 and 7 team looks like. It's a team with talent that just can't really ever put it together. And so I think really that's what I'm looking for this next season, is that talent is still there. They've added some great pieces in the transfer portal. Aranda's made some really important changes on the coaching staff. They don't want to be a 500 ball club again, and they don't want to be, flirting with 500 again. And so if you're getting up there towards 8-9 wins, that's definitely a top half of the Big 12 team. So that's my expectation, and I think that really should be the expectation of the team and the fans.
And you wonder if the special teams is better too, which is always something that separates a 6-win team to be an 8 or 9 or vice versa. That's right. If it doesn't go well. Thanks for your time, Travis. Appreciate you jumping on with us. We'll have you on again as the spring drills begin for Baylor next week, the spring game late in April. When we come back, John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist, with us on 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, brand new location just on the east side of I-35 rolling through the city of Waco. And it's on Loop 340. With all of what they have with the brand new facility, including a 2,500 square foot showroom that has just dozens of new product that they can give to you, the customer, real estate, commercial, whatever it might be. In addition to the standard long lengths, some tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. So that means you don't have to pick up the product and then go get it cut or cut it yourself. Again, the 2,500 square foot showroom with 1,000 new products in stock, welding supplies, hardware, do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you're a professional, contractor, or a weekend warrior. Carrying Quikrete, so you can now get your post, pipe, and hinges, latches, and concrete for your fences and gates, saving you the time of having to go to several places for various material. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger, and still the standard of what they bring with excellence in customer service and product. Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe in Waco, Texas, and Bryan, pioneerboys.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street behind the bank.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with NFL Hall of Fame columnist John McLean. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943. Read John's work at GallerySports.com and SportsRadio610.com.
John McLean, Hall of Fame columnist with us. GallerySports.com, 610 in Houston, among many radio stations he appears on, including ours, each week. And he joins us on 365 Sports. And John, free agencies off and running. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. With not only the interest in New York and vice versa, but now a wish list. How do you think this is going to end up?
Well, I think he's going to the Jets, and I don't like that the Jets are – it's okay to sign Alan Lazard. He's a legitimate receiver. The 39-year-old tight end Mercedes Lewis and washed-up wide receiver Randall Cobb, guys, they wouldn't even give a moment's attention to if it wasn't for Rodgers. I don't like a quarterback dictating personnel. And Rodgers has become a head case anyway. He's going to be on with Pat McAfee tomorrow, and I'm sure it'll all be done by then. But he seems to love the attention he's getting, and I don't like the way it's going. If I was him and I was going to pay him $58.3 million this year, I would sign Lamar Jackson to an offer sheet and give up the 2 ones for him instead of Aaron Rodgers, who's 39, and Jackson just turned 26.
What do you think the compensation will be going back to the Packers?
Well, they're going to get at least 2 ones. I mean, that's what everybody said all along. I mean, he's won 4 MVPs. He won 2 in a row. Then he had a mediocre season last year. If I were the Jets, I would demand that he participate in the off-season program, which he wasn't doing for the Packers unless it was mandatory, the mini camp in June. And so if this was the Rodgers who had seemed to gone off his rocker, I wouldn't hesitate. But, man, he's 39, and you're going all in with a young team. And if it doesn't work out, then what are you going to do? If you go back and look at their quarterbacks, they've had like 12 different starters over the last 13 years. And that's why I'd rather have Lamar Jackson instead of Rodgers.
John, I was just reading your Twitter timeline a little while ago, and you don't appear to be all that enthusiastic about what they've done up to this point. Nick Caserio, where are the Texans in the ocean of free agency, and what do they have potentially in line?
The last 2 years, I could understand them giving out all 2 or 1 year contracts. The only 3-year contract Nick Caserio gave out was a punter from Philly, Cam Johnston, who's been really good, and their special teams were number 1 in the NFL last season. But I thought that he might, instead of signing a bunch of backups, and I thought he might make a splash with a couple of starters, instant starters. Now, he made a trade today for Shaq Mason, a guard for the Bucks, who played for New England when Caserio was there, and he's very reliable. He played all but 10 snaps last year and started every game. They'll put him in the right guard. Their offensive line's shaping up to be pretty good, but, man, they signed Jimmy Ward, a safety. He'll turn 30. He's 31, but D'Amico Ryans wanted him. He's been with the 49ers 9 years, and he'll start, and I like that one. And I like the signing of Case Keenum because he's a backup quarterback, and the number 2 pick's going to need a backup quarterback. Case, this will be his 3rd time with the Texans, and he is beloved here because he spent 6 years at the University of Houston setting all kind of NCAA records. And I assume Case is going to be a coach after his career's over like his dad, and he lives here. So it was a natural thing. In fact, I tweeted about a month ago, I wish they'd bring back Case Keenum. So I got he and Jimmy Ward, Shaq Mason, all those other guys they brought in, Noah Brown from the Cowboys. That doesn't float my boat. Nothing they've done has floated my boat at a time where I thought they were going to be more active with legitimate starters.
John, do you see any scenario where they, with 2 and if 1 fell to them at 12, if they decide not to go to quarterback in the first round?
If they didn't take a quarterback with a 2nd overall pick and they were going to start Case Keenum with Davis Mills at the backup, people burned down NRG Stadium. Case Keenum signing means Davis Mills is out of here. Mills isn't going to be the 13th quarterback after being their starter for most of his first 2 seasons, and I feel bad for him because he had a great. He had really good last 5 games of his rookie year, and then they changed coordinators and quarterback coaches, and they ruined him. And so now they brought in Keenum to be the backup, and they're not bringing in anybody else to be a starter other than the 2nd overall pick.
John, Stephon Gilmore, who's been around and has been successful wherever he's been, Cowboys get him for a 5th-round pick. And they, of course, were pretty darn good on defense. Your thoughts about what they did rather than dip it into free agency so much? They're re-signing some of their guys, but also bringing in a veteran who might help that locker room even more.
It's his 4th team, and he's kind of become a mercenary. He played pretty well last year. He didn't play well the year before. I think it's a good addition. You know, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He's a good guy. He should help the culture. And it looks to me like they need more help on offense, but I like that move, especially for a 5.
John, do you think that the Cowboys might have another move in them, like a DeAndre Hopkins or someone like that?
Problem with DeAndre Hopkins, he makes a lot of money. He's going to be 31 years old. He was suspended and hurt this year. He was hurt at the end of last year. When he's with Texans, he missed 1 game his first 7 years. And now he's got injury issues. And when DeAndre's healthy, he's never been a deep threat. He's a great possession receiver. And if he redid his contract and maybe added a couple years to lower his cap figure, I'd like to have him. Cleveland's talking about getting him and reuniting him with Deshaun Watson, but it just scares me when you hit 30 and all of a sudden things happen to you that never happened to you early in your career, which is being injured.
What do you think about Darren Waller to the Giants?
He was hurt a lot last year, Paul. Year before, he's tremendous. He just got married to one of the star players for the Las Vegas Aces WNBA team. Then they trade him to New York. If he's healthy, it's going to be a really good move for Daniel Jones and the Giants offense. If he has a lot of injuries like last year, he's cost him a third-round pick. The Patriots like their kind of players. They had Waller 2 years ago was outstanding. He overcame serious drug issues early in his career. People gave up on him. He's a great success story. Hope he does well. But I can see the Giants doing that, and hopefully he'll flourish in that new environment.
So Darren Waller's gone. Jarrett Stidham went to the Broncos, but the Raiders signed Jimmy G, John. So Derek Carr out of there as well. What do you kind of see Oakland shaping up to do and look like here moving forward?
Garoppolo's contract, Craig, could be a one-year deal. I still wouldn't surprise me if they don't take a quarterback with the 7th pick if one's there, or maybe they try to get Tennessee's Hendon Herndon in the 2nd round, although I think he'll go in the 1st round. They got 12 draft choices. Maybe they trade back into the 1st round, but I'm not so sure they're not going to take a quarterback with the 1st pick they have, 7th overall, or maybe try to trade up to get one of the top 4 and let him sit for a year behind Garoppolo. But Garoppolo's only had one season in which he played every game. And he came into the league in 2014. So if he's on your team, you better have a backup.
John, with the cap moving up, it seems like there are teams, of course, releasing. I asked you this last week, if it's monopoly money, if it's real, and it is real. There's no question. You were talking about everyone, lots of players being released. Is there anyone else in particular, a big name that still looks like they're going to probably not make it as teams start to load up their rosters again?
David, I hadn't thought about that, but the deadline is 3 o'clock tomorrow, and every team has to be under the cap. And a lot of them are having to cut and redo. And so I think there will be more guys cut. There's still a lot of free agents out there. And this two-day window for negotiating with other teams' free agents before it becomes official at 3 o'clock tomorrow is taking the interest out of 3 o'clock tomorrow. Used to, at 3:01 p.m., all these things happened, and then you were glued to Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, but now you're like, most of them have already gone. But there will be more. And so I can't wait to see it. Although I will be in Las Vegas watching those fighting Baylor Bears at Caesar Palace's sports book. I don't bet, but I might put, I don't know if I will or not. I'll just say this. As you guys know, if you like college basketball in the state of Texas, having Houston, Baylor, A&M, Texas, TCU, all those schools in, I think the tournament is going to be tremendous. And I've never been for the first 2 rounds. A good friend of mine from Waco, Gary Horn, he and I grew up together. He goes every year, so we're going with him, and we're going to experience it, and hopefully the Bears will make it to the Sweet 16.
If, in fact, they learn how to rebound and play a little bit better defense, right?
Yeah, I mean, 6'11" guys play 29 minutes and don't get 1 rebound.
Not many that I know of.
Me either.
It's a sore subject.
Bears.
Sick 'em Bears. Thank you, John. Stop being so damn negative.
That was an ender right there.
Yeah, that was a Chan Gailey when he was the head coach of the Cowboys. Somebody would ask a question, and if it was just one that just didn't sit right with him, that's an ender. When we come back, speaking of that, Paul Catalina's Top 5 is next.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue.
Next in line.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 best moves of day one of free agency. Or the first day and a half or so. Just talked to John, first part of it, because there's some trades in here, not just signings. Number 5, wide receiver Jacoby Myers on his way to the Raiders. Look, if you've got Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers, and there's one guy I'm leaving out here who had a really good year for the Raiders last year, blanking, they've got a nice little set of receivers. Now, you do move on from Darren Waller, but this is a really good draft for tight ends, and the Raiders have, I want to say, the 38th pick in the second round. I don't think they'll use the 7th pick on one, but you could get someone like possibly Dalton Kincaid, Darnell Washington, maybe even Michael Mayer, depending on how they all fall and how people really feel about these tight ends. To do that, I like this move, especially with Jimmy G. You've got someone who's a sure-handed receiver who understands Josh McDaniel's system. So I like this one for the Raiders, even though these 2 very practical moves that the Raiders have made. Although I don't know how I feel about them overall because they are still the Raiders and they could wind up doing something ridiculous. But so far, I think they've made practical moves, although if I'm Devontae Adams, I'm kind of like, nah, I don't like practicality. I'm getting up there.
Mac Hollins, Foster Moreau.
Yeah, Mac Hollins was good, and there's another guy that was all right. Okay. But yeah,
all right.
So,
yeah, I mean, I think like you said, practical moves and Myers makes sense because of the Jimmy G connection. So yeah, I think that they're clearly going to draft a quarterback. I mean, I'm curious. I'm actually most interested in what they do as far as drafting a quarterback goes, when and who that will be, as John just alluded to. But yeah, I don't know that Jimmy G gets me super excited, but they do have some weapons around him, and just, he's won some games. I mean, he's not like totally incapable by any means. It's just, I don't think that's who they feel like they're building around.
Well, he's not super healthy. And,
yeah, it's not who they're building around for the next 10 years or anything like that. So, yeah, we'll see how the draft goes for them. But like you said, practical and moves that make sense on the surface. They're getting better. It's just not super splashy.
Hunter Renfrow, or did you mention him?
Yeah, no, I mentioned Hunter Renfrow. I really like Hunter Renfrow. But, the Raiders mostly make moves. Like if you were to pick the front office that's just doing cocaine like Al Pacino at the end of Scarface, like sometimes it's the Raiders where it's like, let's get a guy who's fast.
Yeah.
What else can he do? Does it matter?
Yeah. Oh, they were known for that.
Yeah, that's just what they did. By the way, met Greg Papa at the Super Bowl, by the way, Craig. I didn't tell you this, but he was a longtime voice of the Raiders, and my God, he had some stories.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
One day he'll be able to write a book that will be one of the best things that you've ever read about sports.
Yeah, it would be.
It would be unbelievable. Number 4, Shaq Mason, guard from the Bucks going to the Texans. John just talked about this one. I'm glad he brought it up because I was going to ask about it anyway. But this is a really good move because you want good offensive linemen. They've already got Laramie Tunstall up there. Kenyon Green was the guard they drafted from A&M last year. So they are at least, nobody is excited about a lot of the moves the Texans made. And you heard John mention that. But it's all about who that quarterback is, whether it's Stroud or Young or, Levis. Or maybe, look, I doubt it's Anthony Richardson because it would seem that he's going to have to train behind somebody for a little while. To me, that makes sense to the Raiders, especially based on their previous personality of liking guys who are just pure athletes. So we'll see. Absolutely there. But I like this move here. I like any time a team goes out and gets a high-quality starting offensive lineman, and Shaq Mason is certainly that.
Yeah, well, you're going to have a brand-new quarterback, right? So you need some people to block for him. So it just makes sense. But, yeah, I'm intrigued by D'Amico Ryans and how he's going to go about building that team. I said to John that I was reading his tweets. I think he's probably feeling left out as much as anything because it felt like there was a NFL story breaking left and right there for the entire afternoon, really. And, the Texans, who have been bad intentionally now for a couple of years, to get to this point where now they're going to start building this thing back up, you're fair to be a little bit disappointed they haven't made some splashes, but a practical move. I think, as you said, with the Raiders, it's a practical move here as well. And I'm looking forward to how Ryans approaches the remainder of not only free agency, but particularly the draft and what he sees as their best moves to make.
Yeah. Practicality, I think, actually is what wins in free agency into this time. Like the Cowboys made a very practical move today with Stephon Gilmore. Not on this list because it just happened an hour ago. Number 3, defensive tackle Javon Hargrove goes from the Eagles to the 49ers. This is a perfect fit for him. It's a perfect fit for the team. You see Joey Bosa in that graphic there. He's going to be thrilled about this. The 49ers can already stuff the run and get after the passer. This adds more depth to that on a defense that's already good, and we'll see how they, respond with not having D'Amico Ryans there. It looks like Javon Hargrove's hand's in my mouth here on this graphic, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is.
But I think this is a great move for the 49ers. John Lynch, I don't know how many people talk about him as one of the better GMs, but in my opinion, if they can get quarterback figured out, the 49ers are going to be good for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly should be. I think, defensively they're a fun team to watch. Philly, pretty nasty as well. So, yeah, that's a good move on their part. And, John Lynch, you're right, probably deserves a bit more credit. But, yeah, I think that's a really solid player that they're adding right there.
Yep. Number 2. TJ Edwards to the Bears, leaving the Eagles, going to the Bears. This is a guy who's a highly productive player. The contract's big, but it's pretty good for the Bears. They have a ton of cap room anyway, so none of this is really going to hurt them. They've been setting up for something like this. They've got the number 9 pick. Curious to see where they go there. They've already picked up DJ Moore. I like the offseason the Bears are having, going full tilt around Justin Fields. Let's see how they can improve that offensive line, shore up the running game to go along with Khalil Herbert. But this is a really good one. Make the defense good. The Bears are really – it's such a strange team. historically, when they've had, if you were talking about them in the 30s and 40s and 50s, then my God, they were scary, right? And then in 1985, they were just the monsters of the Midway again. And they really have not been that since then. I mean, they had that one Super Bowl run under Levy Smith, which was really fantastic. But they're such a strange, odd franchise. So, I do think that they're kind of headed in the right direction. And look, their team president now is Kevin Warren. So he's a guy who's not afraid to make big moves or approve big moves from the GM Ryan Poles. I like this one. I think TJ Edwards is going to fit really well there with the Bears.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that pickup, and they're going to be an interesting team to keep track of as they start to play around with all this, available these available spots that they have.
How much of the defense Philadelphia had, which was very good, how much of it are they going to lose?
Well, look, they, reports are out that the Cowboys picked between trading for Stephon Gilmore or Darius Slay. So the Eagles are, I think they're trying to keep their team young and build it young. And so Darius Slay's a veteran, move off the things you can move off. Don't get bogged down in free agency. Look, they traded, not traded, but they essentially swapped out, Miles Sanders, they let him walk, brought in Rashad Penny on a better deal. They'll probably, it would not shock me in the slightest if Bijan Robinson or Jahmyr Gibbs is an Eagle.
Yeah.
Because that really fits what they do, and they don't have a lot of holes to fill in the draft anyway. Number 1, Jalen Ramsey to the Dolphins. This is X Howard and Jalen Ramsey in the same secondary. That is going to be tough. And look, you're in a division that's probably going to have Aaron Rodgers, that already has Josh Allen. And you probably seemingly feel pretty confident with Tua as their quarterback. They've got really excellent wide receivers there. We'll see what they do. They don't have a pick until I think 57th is their first pick or something like that. They're in the later part of the second round where their first pick is, and they don't have a lot of draft picks. So if you want to win with Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins now, you got to make big moves. Jalen Ramsey certainly is that. Really surprised this is a dude who's on his third team, but, put him with Xavier Howard and start to improve the rest of that defense. The Dolphins might make some waves there in the NFC East. And look,
AFC East.
And the AFC East. And if Mac Jones gets a boost from Bill O'Brien, we don't know. But if he does, after what happened last year, then you're going to need good secondaries throughout that division.
You think that you look at this is shutdown, right? It doesn't always work that way. I don't have too many examples, but you would think that, okay, then they're going to be fine, but you still have to have everybody else play a role, whether it's, as a bit piece or others who have to step up. But it sure was wow, Xavier Howard, leader in interceptions, it seems like the last 3 to 5 years in the NFL. And a guy, and Ramsey helped flip the switch for the Rams and winning the Super Bowl. He was part of that. So he does bring that. And I don't know if there's a better combination of cornerbacks in the NFL.
Well, Vic Fangio, by the way, the new defensive coordinator there, allows him to be pretty creative in the coverages he'll mix up too. So we'll see how that goes there in Miami.
Yeah, I'm sure X is excited. I think he's, got to be careful. He's getting there on the kind of turning the corner of his career. I feel like age-wise, he's been around a long time now. It hadn't been anywhere close to 10 years, but, he's starting to get up there as far as a veteran goes. But Ramsey's a guy who's going to bring a lot of swagger, that's for sure, and bring an attitude and bring, some great talent as well. So, yeah, I'm sure that they're fired up in Miami, and on paper that looks like it's got a chance to be a really nice secondary and a really nice defense. So excited to see how that ends up benefiting Xavier and his career moving forward.
All right, thanks to those of you today who joined us on the chat, in the text line, Daniel and Scotty B, with your thoughts to us on that, and then dozens and dozens and dozens of you who were in the chat room today. And, in fact, Sir Blah, 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 good evening, y'all. You too, Mrs. Calabash, whoever you are. And Craig, the Dragon Smoak, as everyone calls him. Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Garrett Ross, thank you. Jack McKenzie was here for a little bit earlier today. We'll be back at it, plus our incredible sponsors of 365 Sports. Tomorrow, Chuck Cooperstein, Rob Douster, John Cooper on the NFL Draft from Hourlands, Zach Gelb of CBS Sports Radio, Kevin Flaherty, NCAA Men's Basketball, John Machota, Paul's Top 5, and maybe a couple of others. I'm David Smoak. Thank you for everyone. Appreciate your time. Good night, 365 Sports.